Well, hello and good evening, everyone. Durud Patriots. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching from. I am Goldie Ghamari, former Canadian politician, current geopolitical analyst with an expertise in the Middle East, as well as human rights activist on all things Iran. And you are watching tonight's edition of The Goldie Show. So, welcome, everyone. We have a very explosive topic tonight, no pun intended. And, I have a feeling that we are just getting started. You know what? Let me just dive right in because there is so much going on right now in the Middle East. I don't even know where to begin. I mean, I kind of do know where to begin, but you know what I mean. Things have heated up and things have literally gone from like 0 to 100 within the span of 24 hours. And I believe that this was all because the Islamic regime, the terrorist Islamic regime that's been occupying Iran for the last 47 years, made the critical mistake of attacking the US military. And if you were watching the Goldie Show last night, I said that President Trump is not going to let that attack by the terrorist Islamic regime against the US Apache helicopter, endangering the lives of 2 US military men. He's not going to let that go unanswered. Because President Trump's response to that aggression by the terrorist and illegitimate Islamic regime, that response is not really for the Islamic regime itself. Because the entire world is watching right now. The enemies of the United States are watching right now. And so President Trump knows that. He understands that. The people around him, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, they know that. Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham. By the way, congrats, Lindsey Graham. You got reelected with like an overwhelming majority. So happy for you. We love you, Lindsey Graham. Thank you so much for everything you're doing for Iran. But President Trump knows that the entire world is watching. And the enemies of the United States, especially China, Russia, Colombia, some other states I don't want to mention, they're watching to see how the United States responds to that act of aggression by the terrorist and illegitimate Islamic regime. Because the United States has a reputation, a well-deserved and well-earned reputation, by the way, of being the strongest military in the world. Let me tell you something. As someone who comes from the Middle East, for those of you, and especially Americans, the liberties and freedoms that you have in your country, this came at a price. And I know that Americans fought for the liberties that you have right now back in the late 1700s. I know that. But many Americans assume that the American Revolution, the fight for freedom, that was it. It's not. That's because the founding fathers of the United States never envisioned that they would have to deal with Islamic Jihad. They never envisioned that they would have to deal with communism, because communism didn't even exist back in the late 1700s. The whole Marxist-Leninist communist ideology, right, didn't exist back then. And so today, what a lot of Americans don't realize is that what's happening in the Middle East, what's happening in China, Russia, other places that are occupied by either Islamic dictatorships or communist dictatorships, that poses a very real and serious threat to the United States. And that's why the United States is the strongest military power. And that is why the United States is the leader of the free world. And, you know, I'm not even American, I'm Canadian. And as a Canadian, I say, thank God that the United States is the leader of the free world. Because God forbid if, I don't know, Canada or the UK or EU held that role, the world would be much different today. The United States is fighting a battle, not just against the Islamic regime. They're fighting a battle against anti-Americanism. They're fighting a battle against the forces of communism, jihad, and Islamism. You might not believe it now, but for those of you who have been tuning in and watching the Goldie Show for a long time, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because I have been speaking on this topic for months on end. For months on end. And I do want to say one thing. There's actually one person who, back in the 1700s, understood and recognized the threat of Islamic Jihad and Islamic terrorism. And that was Thomas Jefferson. But I'll save that for another episode. I'm going to make like a video on that, and I'm going to explain exactly what Thomas Jefferson knew about Islam and how that shaped his worldviews. And thank God that the world has someone like Thomas Jefferson. But that's a topic for another day. But getting back to the topic at hand. So the Islamic regime attacked the United States. And like I said yesterday, I had a feeling that President Trump's response is not necessarily for the Islamic regime, because the United States can easily destroy the Islamic regime. And, you know, I hope that now, given what's happened, they do so, right? Like the Islamic regime is a cancer that needs to be eradicated off the face of the earth. But it's more than that. President Trump's response is for everyone else who's watching. Because if I was advising President Trump, I would say to him, you, Mr. President, sir, respectfully, need to make an example of the Islamic regime. You need to demonstrate to the world that when the commander-in-chief says that the United States is a leader of the free world, that's not just words. It's not an empty promise. There's a reason. There is a reason, and I know that there's a very good reason why the United States is a leader of the free world and protects democracy. And I think that's what we're seeing now. But we're going to get into that because there's a lot of breaking news. There's a lot of rumors. And we're going to break it all down for you. I'm also monitoring, as always, Fox News, because Fox News does have some of the best takes when it comes to the Islamic regime versus Iran. And this is what I want everyone to think about and focus on during this live stream. I mean, if you're watching live, think about this during the live, but if you're watching, the afterwards, think about this the entire time. There is a difference between the Islamic regime and Iran. There's a reason why we Iranians refer to Iran as occupied Iran. Imagine France during World War II, when France was occupied by Nazis. Imagine Germany itself when it was occupied by Nazis. That's exactly what's happening in occupied Iran right now. In fact, that's what's been going on for the last 47 years. And it's only now that the world is waking up and realizing the truth. But we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that because I do have some breaking news on that topic as well. So let's just get right into this. And guys, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the live stream chat where you're tuning in from, because I'm always curious and interested to know where people are watching from, because we have an amazing community. And I always love learning about where everyone is and, where you're watching from. So, all right, let's just dive right in. So, earlier today, let's start with yesterday, okay? I have just been informed by our great military that last night, so this is President Trump yesterday speaking about what happened 2 nights ago. I've just been informed by our great military that last night the Iranians, he means the Islamic regime, shot down one of our highly sophisticated Apache helicopters while patrolling over the Strait of Hormuz. There were 2 pilots involved. Both are safe and uninjured. Nevertheless, the United States must, of necessity, respond to this attack. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And ever since then, President Trump has been, as I like to say, thank you for your attention to this mattering, the Islamic regime. Then he posted afterwards. Where was it? This one here, 12 hours ago. Iran's military is a complete and total mess. Much of it, like their Navy and Air Force, doesn't even exist anymore. They have been completely defeated. Iran is all talk and no action. The bully of the Middle East is dead. I mean, not yet, because the Islamic regime is still attacking. So I wonder what President Trump means by that. Because here's the thing. We Iranians, we've always known that the Islamic regime does not have the military capability or strength to stand up to the United States or Israel. The only thing the Islamic regime is good at is murdering innocent, unarmed Iranians, like they did back on January 8 and 9, where in the span of 2 days alone, they slaughtered over 40,000 innocent, unarmed Iranians. So the bully is not dead yet, because the bully is still bullying the Iranian people. But let's continue. They've taken too long to negotiate a deal that would have been great for them. Now they will have to pay the price. President Donald J. Trump. Here's the thing, though. The Islamic regime would have never, ever, ever in a million years agreed to the deal that President Trump wanted them to sign. And I've explained this before, but I'll summarize this again for you guys. Because the deal that President Trump wanted the Islamic regime to sign was essentially a surrender deal, right? There were 5 main conditions and terms within the deal that President Trump wanted the Islamic regime to agree to. The first one was ending their nuclear military program. The second one was allowing the United States to go into occupied Iran and remove the enriched uranium. The third was an immediate stopping of all funding of their proxy terrorist groups in the Middle East, like Hezbollah, Hamas, Hashd al-Shabi, the Houthis, and others. The fourth was, of course, ending their ballistic missile program. And the fifth one was reopening the Strait of Hormuz. The Islamic regime was not willing to agree to any single one of these terms because the Islamic regime knows and understands that agreeing to even one of these terms is, in essence, admitting surrender. One of the ways that the Islamic regime has remained in power, despite numerous attempts by the Iranian people to rise up and overthrow them, is that whenever the Iranian people rise up, whenever things get, to the point where the Islamic regime feels threatened, what they do is they bring in their terrorist proxy forces to murder Iranian people. They've been doing this for the last 47 years. The Islamic regime will bring in, Arabs from Hezbollah, Arabs from Iraq and Hashd al-Shabi. They'll bring in Afghans from Fatimiyun. They'll bring in, terrorist Pakistanis. They'll bring in Hamas and other jihadi Palestinians. They'll even bring in people from Nigeria. The same Nigerian Muslims that are murdering Nigerian Christians in the Nigerian genocide. Yeah, those are the same ones who come to occupied Iran to murder Iranians. The Islamic regime relies on these outside non-Iranian terrorist proxy groups to suppress and murder the Iranian people in order to stay in power. They've been doing this for 47 years. So even that one condition alone, the condition where President Trump said that the Islamic regime must stop funding its terrorist proxy groups, leaving aside the nuclear, leaving aside the Strait of Hormuz, leaving aside everything else, the ballistic missile program, the Islamic regime is not even an Iranian regime. It's an outside Arab Muslim invading terrorist proxy group. Half of them are not even Iranian. I mean, yes, there are Iranians now within them who support them, but the vast majority of them are not Iranian. That's why back in 1979, when they took over Iran in a military coup d'etat, by the way, with the help of Jimmy Carter and the Democrats. So if you're wondering why the Democrats today are pro-Islamic regime and anti-Trump, if you're wondering why the Democrats today are pro-Islamic regime and anti-America, it goes back to Jimmy Carter. Because if the Democrats today have to admit that they made a mistake back in 1979, that's not going to look good for them, right? They don't want Americans to know that the reason all these Americans have been murdered in the last 47 years at the hands of the Islamic regime is because of Jimmy Carter and the Democrats, right? They don't want you to know that. The facts are uncomfortable to them. But let me tell you something. Facts don't care about your feelings. And what a lot of people have missed, and what a lot of analysts have missed, and even what a lot of political commentators in mainstream media have missed, is that this one single condition that has been rarely talked about, that the Islamic regime must stop supporting and funding its proxy terror groups. That in and of itself is a deal breaker. But people who don't understand the Islamic regime, people who don't know what the Islamic regime really is, they don't really see that as anything, right? It's just something they kind of gloss over. And I actually haven't seen any single geopolitical analyst or journalist or pundit or Middle East expert or whatever in mainstream media in the West talk about that fact. But let me tell you something. If the Islamic regime was going to, let's say, concede and stop funding their terror proxy groups, that in and of itself would be the end of the Islamic regime. Let alone the fact that, if they agreed to allowing Americans to come and take the enriched uranium away, right? Because for 47 years, the Islamic regime has chanted death to America and death to Israel. For 47 years, the Islamic regime has exported its revolutionary ideology, its Islamic jihad, on the foundation and principle and concept of, death to America, and we're fighting the great Satan. Do you actually think that after 47 years, especially when President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu exterminated Ali Khamenei, the supreme dictator of the Islamic regime, like the, garbage that he was, exterminated him back on February 28th. Do you actually think the Islamic regime is going to negotiate when the United States and Israel exterminated their beloved Ayatollah, supreme leader, pedophile, whatever? Yeah. The Islamic regime was never going to do that. But this is where the tactical and strategic mistake of the Islamic regime comes in. Because for 47 years, the Islamic regime has survived through delay tactics. They've survived through, little attacks here and there. And they bank on the assumption that the United States is not going to retaliate because they're going to see it as too much of a hassle. And so I believe, now I don't know if this is true or not, but this is my analysis. I believe that the Islamic regime, when they attacked the United States 2 days ago during the ceasefire negotiations, they were banking on President Trump doing a cost-benefit analysis and ultimately deciding that, the costs outweigh the benefits. And so they were hoping that the United States would not retaliate, especially since literally just 24 hours before that, when the Islamic regime attacked Israel, President Trump put out a statement on Truth Social. Here, I'll pull it up. Literally 24 hours before that. Oh no, it's a Marco Rubio meme. Oh, that's so funny. I love the Marco Rubio memes. All right, but I don't want to get distracted. Let's go back to the bookmarks. So, literally, just before 24 hours before the Islamic regime attacked the United States, they had attacked Israel. And President Trump said, both sides, Israel and Iran, are looking to do an immediate ceasefire. Final negotiations on peace are proceeding, subject to ignorance or stupidity getting in its way. The blockade will remain in place and in full force and effect until a final deal is reached. Things should move quickly. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. That was President Trump saying that Okay, sure. The Islamic regime has attacked Israel, but you know what? Let's stop shooting. Let's come to a deal. I have a feeling the Islamic regime saw this post here from President Trump, and they thought, okay, well, if this is how President Trump is responding when we attack Israel, President Trump is probably going to respond the same way if we attack the Islamic regime. Sorry, if President Trump is going to respond the same way if the Islamic regime attacks the United States. And so some crazy person, we don't know who, decided to attack the United States. Now, what's really interesting is that we were analyzing Islamic regime TV last night. We were analyzing posts and statements from Islamic regime officials, right? The terrorists, the Allahu Akbar, Muhammad Jihad people. And initially, they were all celebrating. They were waving flags. They were yelling, they were waving their terrorist flags, and they were going, Allahu Akbar, whatever. But then, I think for some of them, it dawned how serious the situation actually is. Because President Trump is calling their bluff. And so the narrative within 24 hours quickly shifted. The narrative went from, Allahu Akbar, God is great, we've attacked the United States, to President Trump is lying. That never happened. He's delusional. No helicopter was downed. And now the Islamic regime is blaming Israel. The Islamic regime, as always, as usual, is now claiming that it was actually Israel that downed the Apache helicopter. And they're framing the Islamic regime. And Israel is to blame for this because Israel is trying to goad the United States to attack the Islamic regime and get the United States to do the war with Israel, Islamic regime, or whatever, right? The usual anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish, Jew-hating conspiracy theories that you hear from, like, I don't know, the woke right and the communists and the jihadis and whatever, right? Blame it on Israel, blame it on the Jews, right? That's usually the go-to. So that's what's happening within the Islamic regime. So within 24 hours, they're now blaming it on the Jews. Which is absolutely ridiculous, because that in and of itself is an insult to US military intelligence. Remember, the United States knew exactly where Khamenei was. And as soon as Khamenei came out of his bunker on February 28, they exterminated him like the piece of garbage that he was. The United States intelligence is not something to be trifled with. And I find it absolutely insane that there are people who are claiming that the Islamic regime has better intelligence than the United States. Anyways, we are going to continue this. However, Jesse Waters is just about to go live, and there's like this craziness happening in Belfast, right? With all like the jihadis and the terrorists and whatever. So let's go to Jesse Waters because I have a lot of time for him and I want to know what he's saying. Oh, there we go.
Donald Trump has had it with the gay Ayatollah.
Yes.
As President Trump said, they've been tapping. You can see when someone's trying to tap on a deal. Instead, they're going to have tap bombs dropping on key facilities in Iran from the United States of America.
Good. Wait, what's that? Is that Will Ferrell? Wait.
Fox News alert: for the second night in a row, the United States is bombing Iran. Not in retaliation for them downing the Apache,
but to pump up the pressure on negotiations. CENTCOM hitting all targets along the Strait of Hormuz, islands, and military installations on the coast, including air defense systems, radar, and drone command and control units. Sources say the president's considering an operation that is big in scale but short in duration.
You posted this morning about Iran, and you said that they've taken too long to get to a deal, and I want to make sure I quote you correctly. You said that now they will have to pay the price.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that specifically?
Well, we're going to be attacking them very hard.
Good.
Last night's airstrikes were in response to an Iranian drone hitting a U.S. helicopter. The fact that the two pilots survived and were rescued was a miracle.
The president called it a miracle. This drone hits the Apache helicopter, lodges between the two pilots. It's on fire, and there's a massive amount of heat coming out of the drone, but it doesn't explode. And these pilots very quickly, within seconds, because they're flying very low, take the helicopter down into the sea. And then ultimately, about 2 hours later, according to U.S. Central Command, they are rescued for the first time in U.S. military history by an unmanned sea drone.
Iran's lucky our men didn't die, because if they had, Trump promised to turn Iran into a parking lot. The ceasefire barely holding. CENTCOM forces disabled another blockade runner in the Gulf of Oman. Iran's broke, and they're still trying to slip through the embargo. So a U.S. aircraft fired a precision missile right into her engine room. That's 8 ships blasted back and 134 ships turned around. The blockade is undefeated. Plus, they keep attacking choppers, tankers, and Israel. Trump's still pushing for a peace deal, but the Iranians are testing his patience. Here's where negotiations stand. Remember, in late May, when the president went into the Situation Room to pour over Iran's latest proposal, we were this close to a deal, but Trump sent it back with 2 small amendments. The Iranians had to destroy the uranium in front of the Atomic Energy Committee within 60 days and agreed and never told us straight. Only then would the president unfreeze some funds. These were last-minute tweaks. The deal was almost done, but the president's been waiting for 2 weeks for a response, 2 weeks. And in the meantime, the Iranians are firing off missiles and drones. Trump's not going to wait around like a sucker.
So we'll see what happens. But we hit them hard yesterday, and we're going to hit them again hard today, in case you miss it, in case you don't turn on your television set. And we'll see what happens with the deal. We're really close to a deal, but they keep tapping us along. They keep playing us for suckers because, you know what? They dealt with some very stupid presidents. I have to say that. I'm embarrassed to say it.
The president also told Fox bridge and power plant day is back on the table. Trump said the gay Ayatollah had a chance to sign a deal and survive, but tonight he should probably stay in his cave.
As President Trump said, they've been tapping. You can see when someone's trying to tap on a deal. Instead, they're going to have tap bombs dropping on key facilities in Iran from the United States of America. And that's not because we want to restart anything we don't have to restart. It's because the War Department is prepared to set the terms to ensure that we get the kind of deal President Trump expects.
Pete has the boys locked and loaded, ready for anything. Paratroopers are doing small arms training in the Middle East, live fire drills. The wall of steel still strong. Iran can't get anything in or out, but others have been. According to the president, we've been conducting Operation Freedom in secret.
Do you know we've been taking out millions of barrels of oil? Nobody knows it. You know who doesn't know about it? Iran, until right now. We took out the other night 22 ships late at night with no lights because they don't have any radar because we blasted the crap out of it. We took out, that's why oil's $85 a barrel.
Operation Freedom never paused. It was being done in the dark. We believe the Apache helicopter was part of that mission when it went down Monday. Reports say peace talks are still on. Qatari negotiators are headed to Tehran to close the gaps. We'll see if these latest rounds of strikes can shake things loose. Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst is live in Tel Aviv. What's going on, Trey?
Yeah, hey, Jesse, good evening. I spoke tonight with President Trump, who was in the Situation Room overseeing these U.S. military strikes against the Iranian regime. He was joined by Vice President J.D. Vance and Special Envoys Kushner and Witkoff. The president telling Fox News at that time 49 Tomahawk missiles had been used against targets in Iran, along with fighter jets that were bombing positions about 40 miles outside of Tehran and also along the southwest coast of Iran that sits along the Persian Gulf. The president said, "We hit them very hard tonight." He described the strikes as vicious and violent. He said the bombing will stop shortly, but if they don't sign an agreement, the president said, quote, "we'll bomb the S out of them tomorrow." And so ultimately, the president is leaving the military option on the table. President Trump describing what it was like inside the Situation Room. He tells Fox News the Iranians called him and asked him to stop bombing. I asked him if he spoke directly with officials in Tehran. He said yes, top officials there, similar people that he's been dealing with before, trying to get this deal across the finish line. He says this ceasefire has been the most violated ceasefire in the history of the world. And Vice President J.D. Vance told me they are dealing with both moderate and more extreme voices inside of Iran. As for the state of play in the region, the Middle East is bracing to see if the Iranians are going to respond to these U.S. strikes against their country that hammered radar systems and air defense units along the coast. We do know that Israel was not involved in the strikes tonight, according to President Trump, but the president said he did speak with the Israelis briefly before this operation began. But again, to conclude here, Jesse, 49 Tomahawk missiles used by the U.S. military, fighter jets over the skies of Iran, hammering targets on the ground, and the Iranian officials, according to President Trump, on the phone with the president himself, asking him to stop the bombing campaign. Jesse?
Great reporting, Trey. Stay safe. Thank you. Chuck DeVore is a retired Army intelligence officer. Do you think this latest round is going to do the trick?
Well, Jesse, I guess that's the big question. I don't think it will, in the sense that, let's say they do agree to sign an agreement. Are they really going to stick to it? Or will they not agree to sign a document and try to string things along some more? I think what we've seen in the last two nights is similar to the concept of peeling back layers of an onion. Last night's strikes were about neutralizing air defense systems and radars, in retaliation, of course, for that drone hitting the Apache and almost killing our two pilots. It's just, as you said, it's a miracle that they survived, especially the part about ditching in the ocean at night. That's actually really dangerous. So we're peeling back the layers of defense in Iran. And then tonight we hit them even harder and deeper. And so what that does is it sets up the opportunity, if the president pulls the trigger, of really unleashing an enormous amount of damage in a short period of time in Iran.
From listening to Trey, you get the sense that Trump's patience has run out and that he's going to keep a sustained air campaign on these people until they sign what he wants them to sign. Is that your sense?
That certainly seems to be my sense of what's going on. I would like to employ a historical analogy, even though sometimes they can be strained too far. If you think about the war against Imperial Japan in the closing hours of 1945, we took Okinawa at great cost. We were firebombing Japanese cities. We had choked them off from their food supply. And yet it took 2 atomic bombs to force surrender. And even then, the Japanese Imperial Army wasn't convinced that they should surrender. They wanted to fight on. And thank goodness they didn't. There would have been millions and millions of casualties on both sides. So, there's historical precedence for really difficult enemies who never want to surrender. And when you think about it, Jesse, of course, the IRGC doesn't want to surrender. They think they may lose their lives to the Iranian people, who are getting pretty ticked off about the misrule that they've suffered since 1979.
Oh, my God!
The IRGC is kind of in a nifty little position during the ceasefire, but hopefully these latest round of strikes kind of shake things loose so we can get some of the moderate negotiators to sign and then just enforce it. And then no money is going to exchange hands unless we see that dust destroyed.
There's no moderates. There's no moderates.
Fox News alert: a revolution's brewing across the pond in Northern Ireland. Last night, hundreds of masked Irishmen rioted across the city of Belfast, burning buses, torching cars, and setting homes on fire.
This doesn't have to do with Iran, but I want to watch this anyway. Guys, that was so good. They differentiated between the IRGC, which is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and the Iranian people who want to rise up and overthrow them. That's what I've been saying. Okay, let's watch what's happening in Ireland, because I think this is like, it's not totally related, but it is somewhat related.
Head, face, and back. He even lost his eye.
Oh no!
Somehow he's still alive, but in a coma. But who was the butcher? His name's Hadi Oladid, not an Irish lad. He's 30 years old and went from Sudan to Paris before he flew into Dublin and took a bus into Belfast back in 2023. He applied for asylum and the kingdom gave him refugee status. Police say the Belfast butcher wasn't in any security database. He was unknown. Now, when this nut was arrested, he told cops, quote, "I've killed someone. I don't know if they're dead." This animal was taken to the hospital, too, where he threatened to slash another Irishman, telling them, "I'll kill you." This guy went to court, couldn't even speak English. The people have had it.
They're not listening. The political class are not listening. These people who are coming over here illegally, they're rapists, terrorists. They're coming over here. It's literally like putting a wolf in a sheep field. You are giving them a target-rich environment. You haven't vetted them. You've done nothing. All you've done is dump them in a place where they can wreak havoc. Where they come from, guess what? There's no law. If they can do literally whatever they like, well, guess what? What goes around comes around. And I think the political class have got a very, very, very big smack on the nose coming.
One reporter asked an Irish politician, how many more years of open borders can we take?
No
the minister
borders.
said, we just have to be more inclusive.
No.
Fake news. And on the day that's in it, totally inappropriate.
No.
I don't know any country that has open borders. I believe in an immigration system that is fair and managed and enforceable and compassionate and human rights compliant. But that is not the debate for today. The debate today is about our society, about our inclusive society, our welcoming society.
Human rights compliant. The real threat, she says, isn't the African migrant trying to behead the Irish. It's the Irish reaction.
It is thuggery, plain and simple.
This is
the attack in North Belfast was hideous and it was absolutely wrong. But what we're now witnessing is that attack being exploited by dangerous and reckless people to target innocent people who had absolutely nothing to do with it.
The United Kingdom is at a tipping point with migrant crime. In December, an 18-year-old Englishman was sliced to death by an Indian. Henry Novak, a student, was out with his friends one night when he noticed the guy was carrying an 8-inch blade. The teen asks, "What's with the blade?" The Indian says, "I'm a bad man," and then stabbed Novak over and over, including a fatal wound to the chest. Cops showed up, and the Indian with the sword said he was being a racist. Guess who cops handcuffed? The white kid bleeding out.
What's your name, mate? Huh? Has anyone been hurt other than him?
Yeah, me. He's grabbed my brother. He's took my turban off, started grabbing my head.
Are you injured?
Yeah, I've got swollen eye, little bruises.
All right, just step back a little bit for me. Right, let's get you out of there, shall we? What's happened to you, all right? Been stabbed. You've been stabbed? Whereabouts? I don't think you have, mate.
That's what and then you've got nothing. I want to keep you up.
Hand.
I can't breathe.
Put the hand in the cup,
mate. I've seen this video.
Novak died at the scene. Cops just let him bleed to death while they put his hands behind his back. In the UK, it is illegal to carry knives, but there's a religious exemption. The Sikh Indians walk around with a kirpan. It's a ceremonial knife that can be up to a foot long. It's basically a dagger. They've used them historically as a weapon, not as a letter opener. J.D. Vance responded to the attack saying this: Henry Novak died the same way as civilization dies, abandoned, handcuffed by authorities who neither trusted nor cared for him, and accused of hate crimes he did not commit. He should still be alive today, and he would be if the last few generations of European elites had stood their ground against the politics of self-hatred and the mass invasion of migrants. Now, when the body cam dropped, protesters lit up the streets of Southampton. And now tonight, more protests in Belfast. Police were just seen using water cannons to disperse the crowd. You can feel the anger in the streets.
I will never condone what I saw in Belfast last night, but until they drag me from this jury, I am not going to sit here and say I don't understand the revulsion. I do. I get people's anger. Hard-working, law-abiding, normal, everyday people who are increasingly thinking, What the hell? Not only economically am I screwed, not only socially am I screwed, but now I have to look over my shoulder.
90% of all jobs created in the UK in the last 20 years have gone to foreign-born. Politicians are importing the third world where they steal jobs and stab bodies. Yeah, people are mad. Doesn't make the riots right, but I hear them. Former UFC champ Conor McGregor said this: ban immigration from the third world now. Help them from where they are, as we've done over the years so many times beautifully and nobly. They cannot come here any longer. McGregor was at the White House last year warning about all of this.
It's high time that America is made aware of what is going on in Ireland. What is going on in Ireland is a travesty. Our government is the government of zero action with zero accountability. The illegal immigration racket is running ravage on the country. There are rural towns in Ireland that have been overrun in one swoop, that have become a minority in one swoop. So issues need to be addressed. And the 40 million Irish Americans, as I said, need to hear this, because if not, there will be no place to come home and visit.
Trump's been warning Europe that unchecked migration is going to wipe away hundreds of years of their civilization. The president says we were on the cusp of looking like Europe until he came in.
I believe it was the most insecure and unsecure border anywhere in the world. And they allowed this open border policy where millions of people came into our country, unchecked, unvetted, people from jails, people, drug dealers, people from mental institutions. Jails and mental institutions from all over the world were emptied out into our country. And we've got a lot of them out. We have a ways to go.
Today, POTUS signed a bill to give almost $70 billion to ICE and Border Patrol. America can't turn into Europe, or Manhattan will look like Belfast tonight. We cannot afford any more riots. American politicians should see what's going on in Ireland and make sure that doesn't happen here. Because when government betrays its people, the people will govern themselves. And that can get a little messy. Victor Davis Hanson, a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution. What do you think of what's going on over there in Belfast?
Well, it's a reminder that DEI, or racial chauvinism, ethnic chauvinism combined with open borders and mass immigration from illiberal societies is a recipe for disaster.
That's what happened in Iran in 1979.
Riots, but when you bring in people from antithetical cultures and you tell them upon arrival they don't have to acculturate, integrate, or assimilate, but they have grudges against their host because they feel that they're victimized, and you lavish social entitlements upon them and you make them exempt from any consequences of their illiberal behavior, then you get what we've seen there. And we got to remember, Jesse, both in the United States and in Europe, especially the UK, we're 60 years, 3 generations from the Civil Rights Acts and their versions of them. So we've got 3 generations of people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s that grew up with reverse discrimination, and they didn't know anything about segregation or institutionalized racism. All they know is that their job opportunities were curtailed because there was this new idea of equality of result, where people, based on their skin color or ethnic origins, or whether they're migrants or something, they had preferential treatment, and yet they were paying for the sins of prior generations. That's what they felt. And then finally, there was a class element to it. The elites crafted this system to bring in constituents dependent on state largesse, but they were never subject to the consequences of their own terrible ideology, because they had the money and the zip codes and the resources to protect themselves from that kind of violence that we saw. And they made it worse by insulting the white working class as if they're illiberal and Neanderthal, when they created the conditions and they were immune from them. And now they don't know what to do, because they realize it's blowing up in their face, both there and in the United States.
Yeah, what kind of country, VDH, what kind of country disarms their population and then brings foreigners in and hands them knives?
Iran!
And then
Iran!
just says, have at it.
The Islamic regime. The Islamic regime, guys, the Islamic regime occupying Iran, that's what they did in 1979. This is why we're watching this thing about Ireland right now, because what you're seeing happening in Ireland That literally happened in occupied Iran back in 1979. They've imported non-Iranians from Iraq, from like, the Hezbollah and Lebanon, from, Gaza, Palestine, from Afghanistan, from Pakistan, from, I don't know, like Africa. All these non-Iranians they've imported into occupied Iran, and they've given them weapons and it's to murder Iranians. Guys, what you're seeing happening in Ireland, this is how it started in occupied Iran. That's how it started. Yeah, so the country that does this is the Islamic regime in occupied Iran.
Nobody was going to do something about it until finally somebody did. But I think we're reaching a boiling point both in the United States and in Europe with this idea that Western civilization is toxic, white privilege, white supremacy, all this. It's been, as I said, 3 generations from the idea that special preference based on race to make up and atone for past discrimination would give us an equality of result, and it didn't. And we need to get back to meritocracy, and if people do not want to participate, and then that's their problem. But I think immigration is going to be vastly reduced, both legal and, of course, illegal.
It should be, because now immigration's a weapon, and it's a self-inflicted wound.
Yes.
VDH, great to talk to you. Thank you so much. The Carmelo Anthony verdict has really set him off.
Okay, look at this, guys. Look at this. Look at this. I'm not exaggerating. Look what the Islamic regime is doing. They've literally. So like the guy from Sudan, like the Durka jihadi, like Muslim guy from Sudan, who went as a refugee to Northern Ireland, and then he almost beheaded that poor Irish dude. Guys, we've been dealing with that for 47 years. Look at this. Look what the Islamic regime does. They've imported the same Durkas into occupied. These are the same people who murder Iranians when we try to rise up. Look at this. Look at this. This guy is not Iranian. He's from Uganda or somewhere. Look at this. They're all like chanting like Allahu Akbar, and like they're pretending as if like they belong to Iran, right? Yeah, guys, the West, you need to wake up. You need to wake up, because what you're seeing happening right now in your countries, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Give them 5 years, give them 10 years, and you guys will be worse off than Iran. God, why do you think we Iranians are fighting with our lives? Because once they take over, that's it. Once they take over, you have to literally pay with blood to reclaim your country. Do not allow them to take over your countries. Like, if someone wants to immigrate and assimilate, sure, fine. Like, whatever. But don't just like mass import garbage people from third world countries, because this is what happens. This is what they're doing to Iran. Look at this. Like, guys, the Islamic regime, they don't even have enough like Iranian supporters, because we Iranians, we hate them. We hate them. The Islamic regime only has 5% support from the entire Iranian population. The other 95% hate them. So they literally have to bring in like African terrorists to walk along the streets and go Allahu Akbar, whatever, Durka, right? Look at this. Like, look, these people are not Iranian. They're literally waving like the Islamic regime Nazi flag. Oh my gosh! Look at all the babies! Look at all the babies they have with them. Look, what are these people doing here? What are they doing in my country? They're literally occupying and invading my country, and they're doing the same thing in your country. But then your politicians, your woke lefty politicians, are like multiculturalism and diversity. No! Guys, I have no issues with immigration. I'm an immigrant myself. My parents immigrated to Canada. But there's a difference between immigrating to a country because you want to improve your life versus immigrating to a country because you want to take over for Islamic Jihad. When my parents immigrated to Canada, they assimilated. They adopted Canadian values. They adopted the Canadian lifestyle. They put me in French immersion because they wanted me to be bilingual. They wanted me to know Canada's both official languages, even though they don't speak French. Je peux parler français parce que mes parents ont connu l'importance d'être bilingue. Et ils ont connu l'importance de respecter le français et la culture francophone du Canada. Sure, my French isn't the greatest, but I can speak it. And, you know, if someone's speaking French to me, I can understand. I can watch French TV shows. If someone gives me something to read, I can read French fluently. You know, my conjugation isn't the greatest. But my parents immigrated to assimilate. They immigrated to get away from the third world ideology of the Islamic regime that was occupying Iran. They immigrated to Canada so they could build a life for themselves. Raise their family in a country that is free and democratic. And they're proud of their Canadian identity. As much as they're proud of their Iranian identity, they're proud of their Canadian identity. My dad has like a Canadian flag outside his house. Not an Iran flag, a Canadian flag. That's proper immigration. And I have no issues with that. I think immigration done right is great. But the current immigration policies in the last 10, 15 years, it's like this open door policy where it's just like import all the garbage from these third world countries. They come in as like asylum seekers or whatever, and then they literally engage in like jihad. I mean, look at this. And I'm saying this because we Iranians are speaking from experience, because that's what they've done to our country. Look at this. Right? And then this African, oh my gosh, like this African guy, he's not even Iranian, but he says in Persian, Magdar Monafiq, which means death to the enemies of Islam. But basically, he's basically saying death to the Iranian people, right? Right? Guys, what's happening in Iran, take that as a warning. Because if you do not rise up and protect your country and protect your culture and protect your civilization, God forbid, in 10, 15 years, you could have these same people in your country saying death to the infidels in your language. Because this African dude, this jihadi from whatever third world garbage country he comes from, literally openly walking down the streets in occupied Iran, and he's like, death to the non-believers, which basically means the Iranian people. The audacity to do that. Could you imagine the audacity to go to another country, walk around the streets, and then attack the native indigenous people of that country and you know, call for their death because they don't believe in Islam? Yeah, welcome to Iran. And if you guys don't wake up, that's going to happen in your countries. Watch this. Oh, they're even yelling Khamenei. Guy, you idiot. Like, Khamenei is dead. Like, I get it. I get it that you're low IQ, inbred, whatever, but Khamenei was exterminated on February 28th. So which Khamenei is the rahbar, right? Like, do you see how low IQ these Durkas are? Yeah. The violence that was done against that poor Irishman. Imagine that on a bigger scale. Do you now understand how 40,000 innocent unarmed Iranians were massacred on January 8 and 9? Over 40,000 innocent Iranians? Yeah. It was these same people, these same non-Iranians from all these, you know, terrorist groups infiltrating Iran, murdering Iranians. Yeah. The same one. These are the bloodthirsty terrorists that murder Iranians, and they're the same ones that are now slowly infiltrating your countries. And look what they did to that poor Irish guy. Utter garbage. Utter garbage. Oh my gosh. Like, wait, let me just, okay. Okay, I'm just keeping an eye on Fox News because obviously I want to go to Sean Hannity. But I really wanted to share this because what's happening in Northern Ireland right now, you might not think it's connected to the Islamic regime, but it is. It is absolutely connected. So when I say that if you want to have your own countries be safe and secure, the best way to do that is to help the Iranian people fight to overthrow the Islamic regime. Because the Islamic regime is not Iranian. The Islamic regime is an occupying force, and it's revolutionary in nature. The Islamic regime does not understand the concept of borders or nation states. The Islamic regime has been exporting its jihad since 1979. Iran was the first step. It was a stepping stone. Okay? So if you want to reduce the Durkas in your country, the best way to do that is to help the Iranian people and support us in our fight. Because the Islamic regime is literally using Iran as an ATM to fund and fuel their terrorism in your countries. Think about that. It's all connected, guys. It's all connected. Okay, I want to go to a few statements from President Trump from earlier today, and then we're going to continue. So let's go down here. Yeah, we went on a little side trip, but the side trip is really important. Guys, all I'm going to say is, as an Iranian who's literally fighting to reclaim my country from a foreign occupying invasion, right? Do not allow anyone to make you feel guilty about being patriotic, okay? When I go visit England, I want to see English people. I want to experience English culture. When I visit Northern Ireland, I want to experience Irish people and Irish culture and Irish food. When I go to Spain, I want to experience Spanish culture. When I go to the United States, I want US culture. When I go to, Morocco, I want Moroccan culture. That's how it should be. And why is it that Western democratic countries are supposed to have this open door policy and just mass import people from the third world who don't want to assimilate or integrate, right? Why is that okay? But yet, if you actually go to like the countries where those people are from, there's no multiculturalism and diversity. Guys, I challenge you. I dare you. I dare anyone. If you disagree with me, try looking up and seeing what happens if you go to, Sudan and try to give out Bibles. I mean, Sudan is a failed state. Forget Sudan. Try going to Saudi Arabia and setting up a booth and giving out free Bibles. See what would happen to you. Try doing that in Pakistan, in Qatar. Do you think you can actually do that? Do you think those countries have a DEI policy? Do you think those countries believe in multiculturalism and diversity? Do you think those countries say that diversity is our strength? Why is it that Western democratic societies are forced to adhere to this DEI ideology of diversity is our strength? Sure, I mean, if you're talking about diversity of, cuisine, yeah, I mean, I love different cuisines. I love that. Diversity of music, sure. diversity of clothing. Sure, as long as the clothing is, not like the burqa, durqa, whatever, right? But ultimately, if a society loses what binds it together, if a society loses its core identity that identifies it as a nation, if you lose your concept of nationhood, of what makes you that particular country, you're pretty much opening the door and inviting in the anti-Western anarchists, the communists, the Islamists, the jihadis. That's what's going on right now. And Iran was the testing ground for that. Because as soon as they took over, they replaced our lion and sun flag with a garbage terrorist flag that says Allahu Akbar in Arabic. And remember, we're Iranian. We're not Arabs. We don't speak Arabic. So why is it? Why is it that the current official, it's not actually official, why is it that the official flag of occupied Iran has Arabic words on it? Why not Iranian? Why not Persian? Why is it Arabic? It's because the Islamic regime is a foreign occupying invading force. And they're trying to erase the Iranian identity. Not only are they trying to get away with it in occupied Iran, but now they're exporting their jihad into your countries. If you show mercy to criminals, that's pretty much a death sentence for the innocent and for the victims. But all right, let's go to some more posts from President Trump, and then I want to go to Sean Hannity as well with the latest breaking updates. Okay, so I think we got to start down a little bit lower here. Guys, I had to share that because that's so important. That's so important, right? People are trying to, like the woke left and the communists and the Islamists and the jihadis, they're basically trying to make you feel guilty for wanting to preserve your identity and your heritage. And they're trying to make it seem as if that's racist. No, it's not racist, right? Wanting to, like being proud of your identity and your country and your language and your culture, that's not racist. That's called national pride. You should be proud of that. Okay, let's watch this message from President Trump. We'll go to the next one.
I've been working with Iran for a number of months, and they should sign their deal. It's a good deal. It doesn't give them the right to have a nuclear weapon. In fact, it totally prohibits them from ever having a nuclear weapon. And it was just tap, tap, tap. I don't know what they're doing. So they then shot at our helicopter, very expensive helicopter, by the way, but much more importantly, the two men, fortunately, they're okay. But an amazing rescue. If you ever get a clip, you won't believe the rescue, how cool it was. The equipment we have. Look, we have the strongest military in the world. And I gave them a break at the request of Pakistan, the Field Marshal and the Prime Minister of Pakistan are great. We stopped them from going to war with India. You would have had a nuclear war if it wasn't for me. But they became friendly to me, very friendly, and they're close to Iran, and they worked, and they still are working on trying them to do what's right. But we want a deal that's meaningful. We want a deal that works. We don't want to just have a Barack Hussein Obama deal, JCPOA, the worst deal. That was a path to a nuclear. It's the exact opposite. I like on television, they say, oh, they should have kept that deal. First of all, it was over. It was a short-term deal. But that deal was a path to a nuclear weapon. This is a path against a nuclear. You can't have a nuclear weapon. His was a path to a nuclear weapon. They were developing during his administration nuclear weapon. If they had a nuclear weapon, they'd be no Israel, there'd be no Middle East, and they would have absolutely shot at us. So we'll see what happens. But we hit them hard yesterday, and we're going to hit them again hard today, in case you miss it, in case you don't turn on your television set. And we'll see what happens with the deal. We were really close to a deal, but they keep tapping us along. They keep playing us for suckers because you know what? They dealt with some very stupid presidents. I have to say that. I'm embarrassed to say it. Some very stupid people were sitting there.
So that's the first clip, and there's more. There's more. So here's the second one.
You know, I can say it now. Something you didn't know. Do you know we've been taking out millions of barrels of oil? Nobody knows it. You know who doesn't know about it? Iran, until right now. We took out the other night 22 ships late at night with no lights because they don't have any radar because we blasted the crap out of it. We took out, that's why oil's $85 a barrel. You know, I can say it now. Something you didn't know. Do you know we've been taking out millions of barrels of oil? Nobody knows it. You know who doesn't know about it? Iran, until right now. We took out the other night 22 ships late at night with no lights because they don't have any radar because we blasted the crap out of it. We took out, that's why oil's $85 a barrel.
You know, President Trump has been waiting for like over a month to talk about that, right? He's literally been waiting for months. So, okay, and then there's more updates. So CENTCOM gave an update as well. At 11:14 p.m. on June 9, U.S. forces disabled an oil tanker in the Gulf of Oman for the second consecutive day after another vessel violated the ongoing blockade by attempting to transport oil from Iran. U.S. Central Command disabled Palau-flagged MT Setabelo as it transited the Gulf of Oman. A U.S. aircraft fired precision munitions into the ship's engine room after the crew repeatedly failed to comply with directions from American forces. CENTCOM forces have disabled 8 non-compliant vessels, redirected 134 ships that complied, and allowed 42 vessels supporting humanitarian aid to pass since initiating the blockade on April 13. So here's some visuals of the boom booms. No audio. Boom. Good. Yeah, I got them all. Good, I'm glad. Keep it coming. Okay, so then we have So President Trump already spoke about the selling the oil secretly. And then there was also, I want to get to some other things. There we go. So 3 hours ago, the strikes began. And guys, I have footage that I'm going to share with you. Someone's asking how old are these clips that I'm showing? These clips are literally from today. So how old? I don't know. They're like 10 hours, 11 hours old maybe. I don't know. If you want like clips from 10 seconds ago, go ask President Trump for that. But everything is literally from today. Okay, so now we have U.S. Central Command posted 3 hours ago. U.S. Central Command forces began launching additional self-defense strikes today at 5:15 p.m. Eastern against multiple targets in Iran at the commander-in-chief's direction. The strikes are in response to Iran's unwarranted and continued aggression. Now, here's the thing. Keep in mind, they're only attacking IRGC bases. So this is where the confusion comes in. And this is why I really wish, not just me, but many Iranians, including His Royal Highness Reza Pahlavi, the Shah of Iran, have always said, don't call it Iran. Call it the Islamic regime occupying Iran. Because when you say that, multiple targets in Iran, right, the enemies of the United States will misconstrue this, will purposely misconstrue this to say, oh, look, like the United States is attacking like the Iranian people, Iranian civilians. No, the United States is attacking the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. They're attacking the Islamic regime. The Islamic regime and the IRGC are occupying Iran. They're a cancer in the country, right? That's like this. That's like making a distinction between Germany and Nazi Germany, right? So this would be like saying the U.S. is attacking Nazi Germany, right? So instead of saying Iran, they should say the Islamic regime or the IRGC. That way, there's no confusion. Now, having said that, we Iranians, we already know that the United States is not attacking Iranian civilian targets, right? Like that's not how a normal democratic country operates. It's the Islamic regime that attacks civilian targets in Israel and in other Persian Gulf countries and in Middle Eastern countries. The Islamic regime is the one that's constantly engaging in war crimes. The United States is not. However, it would just be better if they actually made that very clear, because that can be confusing for a lot of people who are not as familiar with Iran versus the Islamic regime versus geopolitics versus the Middle East. And I think maybe that's why a lot of you are here. And I appreciate that, because I'm here to kind of break it down for you, give you the, the political breakdown, the analysis, and what they actually mean. So that's what I'm here to tell you, is that when they say Iran, they're not talking about Iranian targets. They're talking about Islamic regime targets. And the Islamic regime is a cancer that is currently afflicting Iran. It just would be nice if there was more precision, and clarity. Anyways, let's go to Pete Hegseth. So let's see what Pete Hegseth was saying earlier today. There's a few clips from him as well.
CENTCOM, Central Command, will be busy tonight because President Trump said we will be hitting Iran hard, and we will be. Because Iran has a chance to make a good deal, a great deal, to codify what they said they've been willing to do, and they haven't been willing to do it. So, as President Trump said, they've been tapping. You can see when someone's trying to tap on a deal. Instead, they're going to have tap bombs dropping on key facilities in Iran from the United States of America. And that's not because we want to restart anything we don't have to restart. It's because the War Department is prepared to set the terms to ensure that we get the kind of deal President Trump expects. CENTCOM.
There you go. So Pete Hegseth also confirming that there will be boom booms happening. Now, I do have some footage for you, but before I go to the boom boom footage, I just want to share a few more statements from Pete Hegseth, because this is actually really important. This is really important, and this provides a lot of context. So just be a little bit patient. I will get to the boom boom footage.
There's another thing that was revealed today by the president that the press has not been aware of, but certainly this building, the U.S. Central Command, has known, is that Project Freedom, the idea of running ships through the Strait of Hormuz, it never stopped. It just went underground. And so there's some things the public knows and some things the public doesn't know. But ultimately, we've been protecting commercial.
Yeah, and that's literally how it should be. This is what I don't understand. I don't understand why the public or the Democrats or the mainstream media or anyone else think that they have a right to actually know what's happening from a military perspective. Military operations are confidential for a reason. They're confidential because you don't want to give away your plans to the enemy, right? It's literally it's commonly accepted practice, and yet for some reason, the media or the fake stream media or the Democrats or the leftists or whoever, they're not telling us their plans in detail. Therefore, everything is wrong. No, it's literally called operational security. It's absolutely wild to me that there are all these armchair quarterbacks or whatever who think that they know how to conduct a war better than the people who are actually in charge, right? It's wild.
Shipping going through the Strait of Hormuz, as the president announced, to the tune of over 100 million barrels that have moved through and more in the middle of the night, protected by the United States in a way that Iran can't stop. They can't see it and they can't stop it. So answer me this. If our blockade is ironclad which it is. We just disabled another tanker attempting to leave just yesterday. Our blockade has stopped almost 140 ships attempting to navigate in or out to Iranian ports. So if our blockade is ironclad, which it is, and we're able to move commercial shipping in and out of the Strait of Hormuz, who controls the Strait of Hormuz? And President Trump said it, and he's right. The United States of America controls the Strait of Hormuz. We're able to bring oil in and out and other things with partners, and have done so now for weeks and weeks in ways the Iranians don't want to acknowledge. That's a powerful reality on the ground. Add that to what the United States military, what Central Command did to their Navy, to their Air Force, to their air defenses, to their power projection capabilities. And we know exactly on this ledger who's on the strong end and who is not, who's had decisive effects and who can't defend. And so from the beginning, we've shown overwhelmingly the kind of capabilities the War Department can bring.
There you go. So that's the first clip I wanted to share. And then the next clip is here. Oh, wait, I think I already shared this one. No, I shared that one. Okay. Here's the next one.
If the response is in hitting British electrical infrastructure, how would that not be a war crime potentially targeting civilian infrastructure?
Well, it's precisely the kind of disingenuous question that I'm used to from the media, impugning the motives of the folks on our side who are incredibly professional and incredibly effective. We will hit them hard on our terms, on the targets that improve the environment for us to operate in and undermine the capabilities that Iran wants to have. Again, they can't do that to us meaningfully the way that we can to them, but we're also clearly signaling to them, you have a choice. You have a choice in the way that you respond, and you have a choice with our incredible negotiating team in Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner and the vice president and the president across the board, prepared, Marco Rubio, the whole team prepared to make a great deal that would benefit Iran. They choose not to, and as a result, they're going to meet United States Central Command again tonight in the way the president laid out clearly. Yes.
Good. Good. Okay, guys, I'm keeping an eye on Fox News because I think Sean Hannity's going to be coming up soon. But let's continue with Pete Hegseth.
Well, let's just say this command has used the ceasefire wisely and with great efficiency to ensure that we are refining our intelligence and target sets in a way that are far, far beyond even the beginning of Epic Fury. And that's a part of what I had a chance to see today. So when you see the commencement of Epic Fury, if a conflict were to have to recommence, our ability to target, our ability to sense, our ability to see, our ability to get into networks has only been vastly improved over time. So, and that's certainly what the commanders relayed to me. So the historic success of Epic Fury would only be built upon, whether it's personnel, locations, capabilities, you name it. And again, remember, Iran doesn't have a defense industrial base, and what they have is extremely limited, meaning they don't have the ability right now to make more missiles or make more drones. What they have is what they have, and if they've dug it out, we'll strike it again if we need to. So we know the terms, and we've got always more capability to bring. Yeah, Phil.
Secretary.
I wonder if we could see his infidel, his Kafad tattoo. Let's see if we can spot his Kafad. Guys, honestly, I can't think of a better person right now to be running the Department of War in order to eradicate the Islamic regime than someone who literally has the word Kafad, which is Arabic for infidel, tattooed on his arm, on his forearm, right? Because Muslims call non-Muslims Kafad, which basically means infidel, right? So no, underneath that. Wait, is it his left arm? Is it his left arm? I'm thinking, wait, which arm is it? I'm thinking of his other arm, but he literally has Kafad. Maybe I got the arm wrong, but it's on his arm. Let's see. No, it's his right arm. It's his right arm, guys. I was right. Look at this. He literally has the word Kafad tattooed on his okay, so it's his right arm. Look at this. You see that? Kafar. No, it doesn't mean pagan. It means infidel. Don't, guys, I don't know, the random people in here who are getting insulted, kafar literally means infidel. It means non-Muslim, it means infidel. Anyone who's not a Muslim, they're a kafar. Guys, you can't like try to whitewash the truth from an Iranian. Guys, I'm here to expose the truth, right? So in Persian, it's pronounced kafar. I think in Arabic, it's like kufr or something. I don't know how it's pronounced in Arabic, but yeah, non-believer. No. It doesn't mean non-believer. That's whitewashing the truth. Kafar means infidel. It means infidel. It literally means someone whose blood is halal and can be murdered by Muslims. That's what kafar means. It doesn't mean non-believer or whatever. Kafar literally means infidel. It literally means like the Islamic regime, or you know, like in Islam, kafar translates to infidel. Someone whose blood is halal for being killed, right? So basically killing them is halal. Yeah. They've tried, see, so a lot of people think that kafar like means like non-believer or something. That's because when you actually when you actually read like the Quran in Arabic and when you like read the script, it's actually very violent. It's actually very violent. So a lot of people have tried to downplay the violence of Islam by saying, oh, no, and you know, when we say kill the non-believer, we don't actually mean kill the non-believer. You know, we don't actually mean behead them. It's just, you know, it's rhetorical or philosophical or something. Anyways, but yeah, all that to say, I actually cannot think of a better person to be running the Department of War right now than someone who has kafar tattooed on his arm. On his right arm, because you know that pretty much lets you know that he is not going to show any mercy. And kafar, yeah, see, the Iranians agree with me because we know kafar means someone who is against the God of Islam, Allah, right? So anyone who is a kafar is pretty much allowed by the religion to be murdered, right? Because kafars can be executed. There you go. All right, let's go to Sean Hannity. Oh no! Audio stopped.
He's had enough. We told you would. And he's now following through on his promise to hit the IRGC and other targets hard. Joining us now with the very latest, live from Washington, D.C., our very own Jennifer Griffin. It's been a busy night tonight, Jennifer.
That's right, Sean, and the airstrikes are ongoing. U.S. Central Command began bombing Iranian targets at 5:15 p.m. Eastern after President Trump and Secretary Hegseth telegraphed earlier today that the bombing would resume tonight. Initial explosions were heard almost simultaneously at port cities along the Strait of Hormuz, Iranian air defenses, radars, and communication sites. Iran continues to frustrate the U.S. military by firing drones and missiles using mobile launchers that they can hide inside mountain tunnels. Earlier today, Secretary Hegseth visited Guantanamo Bay in Cuba and then flew to Tampa, Florida to CENTCOM headquarters, where he was briefed on Iranian target lists by Admiral Brad Cooper.
Those strikes that'll happen tonight will be strong. They will be clear. If they happen to happen tomorrow night, they will be strong and they will be clear. CENTCOM, Central Command, will be busy tonight because President Trump said we will be hitting Iran hard, and we will be. If we need to negotiate with bombs, we'll negotiate with bombs.
Earlier today, the president revealed the U.S. military had secretly been escorting oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz, laden with over 100 million barrels, he said, in the middle of the night without Iran seeing them. The Apache helicopter hit by the Iranian drone yesterday was reportedly providing overwatch and protection for one of those vessels. President Trump said an Iranian projectile lodged between the two pilots of the Apache and was on fire, emitting a massive amount of heat, but did not explode. Within seconds, the helicopter pilots brought the helicopter down into the water quickly. Overnight, Iran fired dozens of missiles and drones at U.S. bases after the U.S. bombed 20 Iranian targets in retaliation for the downed Apache helicopter. Sean, Qatari negotiators were in Tehran today to convince Iranian officials to restart negotiations. And we've just learned air defense sirens have sounded in Bahrain. Sean?
Yep.
Yeah, Jennifer, is there any truth to the Qataris apparently telling the Iranians, take the deal that you've been offered? Is there truth to that? I saw that report.
I've seen the same report, Sean. I have not spoken with any of the Qatari officials, but it is likely that they were pressuring the Iranians to at least come back to the talks with a serious offer. And now at this point, it's hard to see how they get off of this escalation ladder. The president, however, says that he received a call from Iranian officials earlier this evening. The Iranians are denying making that call. We'll just have to see in the morning, Sean.
You know, I will tell you, if those Apache helicopter pilots were murdered, this would be a very different discussion tonight, in my opinion. Jennifer Griffin in Washington tonight. Thank you. Tonight, millions are on high alert across the Middle East as a new phase of this war now appears to be underway. Joining us now live from Tel Aviv, our very own Trey Yingst. Trey, an active night in the Middle East tonight.
Yeah, Sean, good evening. Absolutely. I spoke earlier with President Trump as he was in the Situation Room overseeing these U.S. military strikes against the Iranian regime. The president telling Fox News 49 Tomahawk missiles were used at that point against the Iranians. One of the targets as close as 40 miles to the Iranian capital of Tehran. We know fighter jets are still over the skies of Iran at this hour, hitting a variety of targets, many of them there in the southwestern part of the country. The president saying, we've hit them very hard tonight, describing the strikes as violent and vicious. Trump added that the bombing should stop shortly, but if they don't sign the agreement, quote, we'll bomb the S out of them. Now, the president told me he spoke directly with Iranian officials tonight from the Situation Room. President Trump says that they called asking him to stop the bombing. Through state media, Iranian officials have denied this. Vice President J.D. Vance giving some new insight into who they're dealing with in Iran, saying both the moderates and the more extreme voices. President Trump says the Israelis are not involved in the strikes tonight, but he did briefly speak with Israeli counterparts. Again, Sean, the latest information that we have, according to President Trump, in this Situation Room phone call, telling Fox News exclusively 49 Tomahawk missiles used against the Iranian regime, targeting positions along the southwestern part of the country next to the Persian Gulf and outside the capital of Tehran. Fighter jets remain in the skies of Iran at this hour, going after a variety of different positions. And President Trump telling Fox he spoke directly with Iranian officials tonight who are calling on him to stop the bombing. He says he'll stop that bombing if they sign the deal. Sean?
Looks like it's their choice now. They do it the hard way or the easy way. Their time is on the clock for sure. Trey Yingst, thanks for staying up so late. We appreciate it from Tel Aviv tonight. We will continue to monitor the Middle East. We'll take you back on the ground when we have major developments. General Kellogg will give analysis. But first, a revealing new chapter in the Democratic Party, as most of you already knew. The party that once shrouded itself in the Me Too movement, the social justice movement. We care about lives, lecturing Americans about humanity and compassion, and speaking out against Nazism and fascism and Gestapoism, et cetera. Now, well, that Democratic Party never really cared about any of those things. And now proof in the form of one Graham Plattner, you can say El Sayed in Michigan, and this lunatic cisgender Tallarico in Texas. President Trump calling Plattner a thug and a pig. After all, Plattner recently covered up a Nazi tattoo. He is accused of domestic violence, psychological torture, stalking, routine dishonesty, and yet he just won the Maine Democratic primary. 72% of the base Democrats in Maine that voted for him. According to former Obama campaign manager Jim Messina, a star has been born. Take a look.
The Nazis were socialists.
You're seeing a star is born, and you're seeing how a guy who no one had heard of a year ago, even in Maine, no one had heard of him, just beat the incumbent governor in a primary. And so I thought it was amazing.
A star that thinks people, the voters of his state, are racist and stupid. Wow, likes Nazi tattoos. I do have some bad news for Democrats tonight ahead of the general election based on Plattner's appearance today on Morning Joe, Liberal Joe. I think it is safe to say that Plattner is about to dominate headlines in the coming months, and not in good ways. Take a look.
I know everyone continues to be like, oh, what else is coming? Ironically,
right.
The whole what else is coming has essentially been the same thing the whole time, which is I've been very open about the fact that I struggled, very open about the fact that I had a long litany of failed relationships for years because I myself was not in a good place. And then every now and again, we will have a media outlet or a politically motivated attack come up and try to drag it all up. But it's all very much within the exact same story that I've told this entire time.
Okay, so you say there's nothing out there that could be concerning. And this may seem a little bit rich.
There's nothing out there. I just want to make this clear. There's nothing out there that's actually concerning. People will make everything seem very concerning because that's what people do in politics.
Wasn't he on that website in his towel up until like last Monday? Oh, that's a long time ago. If you're a Democrat, does that inspire confidence? Here with this take now, the one and only, I think one of our favorite senators of all time, Louisiana Senator John Kennedy. All right, the party of Plattner, El Sayed, Tellerico, cisgender, God non-binary, and the rest of it.
I love John
and the party
Kennedy.
Of Mamdani, Bernie,
He's one of my
Pocahontas,
favorites.
AOC, the squad. No prominent Democratic leader, but John Fetterman will dare take on the radicals. What does this mean for how America will define that party in this midterm?
Sean, Mr. Plattner seems to be one of the new faces of the loon wing of the Democratic Party.
I love him. I love
clearly he's angry. When I see him on TV, he always looks like he's straining to have a stool. His supporters say, you don't understand him. He's just idiosyncratic. I guess he goose steps to the beat of his own drummer. But his history shows there's more than that. I mean, this guy makes Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez look like Aunt Bee in Mayberry. I mean, his Mr. Plattner's comments about black people, his cavalier attitude toward rape, apparently his stated preference for masturbating in a porta potty, his contempt for America. I think at one point he implied that he wished the Taliban were better shots to kill our people. This is not normal. I mean, this guy is 10 exits past normal. And then he says, well, that was in my past. I've been born again. But just recently we found out through his wife that Mr. Plattner has been sending sexually explicit messages, digital messages, to other women. He calls it sexting and says, oh, there's nothing to see here. Well, Anthony Weiner was sexting, and we all said, what is that about? And we found out he was sending pictures of his penis to young women.
Oh,
now, I'm not saying Mr. Plattner is doing that. I don't know. But he needs to release those text messages. I want to know if he's a sexual predator. I mean, and the people of Maine deserve to know. This guy's, he's like a Saturday Night Live skit.
The silence has been deafening on any one of the controversies that we've been listing. I can even scroll them on the screen.
Oh, my gosh. I think John Kennedy just found out what
any one of
sexting
those
is.
issues, starting with the Nazi tattoo for nearly 20 years, they would be apoplectic. the silence among fellow Democrats, and even more than that, the support he's getting from within the Democratic leadership and the party. I mean, their silence is deafening, and to me, they're putting their seal of approval on this platform by doing so. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think so. I'm not sure I've ever seen anything like this, but I've said this before, but I think it's particularly relevant now. Republicans are not perfect. I'm not, gosh knows we're not perfect, but the other side is crazy. I mean, this is not normal behavior.
Yeah, crazy.
And I want to know, I want to see those text messages.
No,
the
you
60.
don't.
I mean, the American people need to know. The good people may need to know if this guy's a sexual predator. Now, I'm not saying he is, but he says, take my word for it. It was all consensual, and my wife's okay with it. And I'm going, man, you know, you need to change your meds. This is just not normal behavior. He also, his platform, he's got two planks of his platform. Must get out of Iran. Just let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And number two, the solution to all of our domestic problems is get rid of the billionaires. And that's it. That's it. And the press never asks him any hard questions. Go ahead.
He claims he's an oyster man. I had a guy who runs this report. There's no such thing. Nobody's identified as an oyster man in Maine. And apparently, according to financial disclosures, his business. Now, he grew up in privilege. He had tax privilege. And apparently, his only customer, according to financial disclosure, is his mother. So I think this whole life story seems to be predicated on one big lie, and the media is giving him a pass.
I want to know more. I mean, I'm cool if he's an oysterman. I love oysters, but this is deeply weird behavior. And when somebody says, "Well, it's in my past. I was mixed up, confused. Now I'm okay," and then we found out from his wife, and they were trying to keep it hidden, that he's been sending sexually explicit messages. And I want to know. He needs to release those messages. And if there were photographs, he needs to show them to us, and the good people of Maine, and they are good people. They've got a good senator now, Senator Collins, but we need to know if this gentleman is a sexual predator. And the burden of proof is on him. Let me say it again. I'm not saying Republicans are perfect. God knows we are not. Republicans are not perfect. But the other side's crazy. It's not all Democrats, but this guy is now the face of the new Democratic Party.
All right, Senator Kennedy, we always appreciate you being with us. Thank you, sir. Now, on a policy level, Plattner is one of the many radical socialist Democrats. There are no moderates left except one, and spawned and endorsed by Bernie Sanders. All of these politicians loathe capitalism. He's an avowed communist, weirdly obsessed with a hatred of Israel. So naturally, they also despise Democratic Senator, the one common sense Democrat that seems to be left, and that's John Fetterman. Take a look.
Oh, Senator Lindsey Graham is
As you can all probably tell, I got a lot of criticisms about the way this government functions.
Ew, it's the
But in
weird
order for us to make it
guy.
functional, we're going to have to do stuff. And you can't just go down there and be John Fetterman and just kind of just sort of be like that is not a
John Fetterman's a good guy.
that is not, he
You're
said
garbage.
weird things about me. I'm allowed to say that.
Of course, Fetterman is the only Democrat willing to call out Graham Plattner and his sketchy online profiles. Take a look.
Well, here, let me make a deal. You know, I'll tell P. Hustle, I'll wear a suit every day if he releases all those texts and messages that he's had for the dozen women. You know, and you can prove America what's these conversation. You know, can P. Hustle prove how old these people are? Who was he really talking? You know, were they underage? You know, what were these conversations doing that? And why would you do that as a married guy?
So what was Plattner up to, posing shirtless on a messaging app that the New York Times described as a platform that, quote, offers teenagers and predators anonymity? Here with more, Pennsylvania Democratic Senator John Fetterman. Fetterman, you know, Senator, great to have you. I was thinking about your offer. You made it right here on this program. Giving up your hoodie is a big deal. And you wear a suit every day. just give up the text. Apparently, he doesn't like you very much. Your reaction?
Yeah, Pete Hustle's a very angry man. But now I don't know why more of the media is just really drilling it down. And now he spent a decade on Kick. And as you pointed it out, Kick is the predator's paradise. And they offer anonymous, and it really is, it's a clearinghouse for dick pics. And now, can you bring up that picture, of him, in the towel?
Oh, the one in the towel?
Yeah. And then,
whoa! By the way, put it up. We take requests, Senator. It's up for you right now.
Yeah, Plattner. That was his picture for Kick. That's a picture that says, free samples. Hit me up. I can really, So what I'm saying, so why did he choose a platform that's a predator's playground? And now the second question is, what was his safeguards to make sure that he wasn't talking to underage people? Now, how did he know? Did he take ID? Did he interview people before he would send them a dick pic? So now a lot can happen over 10 years. Now he can clear it up. Just release all of these messages. I've got jars of mustard in my refrigerator, that are older than since he was just sending those kind of dick pics and other kinds of sexting with women when he was just married last year. So now I'm saying, clear it all up, release that, and answer those questions to America. Why did you choose Kick? And, how could you be sure in the decade that you were not interacting with underage people and it was all legal adults? And why do you choose to do those things? Why were you just an online creeper and putting out a picture of you in a towel? So for me is, this is a guy that's angry because I wear a hoodie. There he is again. That's P. Hustle there. And now I haven't insulting him. I am just using and describing his own behavior. And these are actual facts. Whether it's like, come for the Nazi tattoo, stay for roughing up ex-girlfriends. And now the real thing is, being a member of the community, it's a paradise for predators right now. And that's here we are. Yeah, I'll be the never defend that.
Any one of these controversies or issues, every Democrat in your caucus, without exception, House and Senate, would be all over any Republican. But yet the silence of your party, but for you and maybe one other that I can think of, a House member, is deafening. Why are they afraid to call out this? Why are they allowing their party now to be defined as this, your party?
Well, what I would say is, how would a Democrat describe P. Hustle if that was a Republican? And the terms that they would use, that would be true. That's exactly who he is. Now, you don't have to actually insult P. Hustle. He has already defiled his own character and behavior. And, he hasn't, it's not about redemption. This is a guy that's pleading after he got caught and lying. He lies about everything. He was in D.C. last week, and he lied to, the people here in our caucus, like, oh, no, there won't be any more scandals. And then, of course, there is. And there, he likes to rough up his ex-girlfriend. So, no, there will be more shoes dropping. And now I'm a guy, you're never going to see me on your show. I'd be happy to defend, we have a lot of great candidates across the map, whether in Alaska, whether in Ohio and North Carolina and Iowa, all this. We have really a great team here. But I'm not going to describe, or I'm not going to carry water for a Captain Dick pic.
I'll say this. If Democrats in your party won't take that stand against him and some of the craziness of Tallarico and El Sayed campaigning with Hassan Piker, I think the party's got a big problem, but I'm not trying to drag you into that. I don't think that's fair. We appreciate you coming on and giving your perspective and your stand on your own. You're an individual. Senator Fetterman, thank you. Appreciate your time. All right, when we come back, breaking news out of Iran. U.S. military now wrapping up U.S. airstrikes all night in Iran. We'll explain. We'll get reaction. Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, Senator Lindsey Graham, straight ahead.
Okay, so we're going to Iran next, so that's great. Guys, like this whole I was not expecting that, but it's giving me a lot of PTSD, guys. The stuff that I saw behind the scenes when I was in politics, guys, it's gross. It's so nasty. There's there's a few good people in politics, but the rest, they're all either I don't know, it's all cocaine and drugs and cheating on people. It's vile. It's vile. It's not a fun atmosphere. Politics is ugh. You know what it is? Let me tell you what it is. It's all these people who okay, it's basically like Hollywood but for ugly people, right? Hollywood but for ugly people. So think of all the ugly, gross people, and then they're all just pretending they're Hollywood stars, even though no one even knows who they are. It's vile. It's very toxic environment. Not a good place to be. The amount of stuff that I had to deal with, and I had to behind the scenes be stay away from me. I literally sometimes guys, some of the messages that I received, oh my gosh, some messages that I received, and then I literally would take screenshots and I would send the screenshot to them and I would say, you're going to apologize to me right now. And the next time you do something like this, I'm sending the screenshot to your wife. It was wild. Guys, politics it's disgusting. Anyways, let's go to, I do want to share this though on a more, on a lighter note. I want to share this, literally my favorite ad, my favorite campaign ad, by, John Kennedy ever. And, yeah, he's fantastic. So literally my favorite campaign ad. And then we're going to go to a few breaking news videos footage, and then we're going to go back to Sean Hannity's update.
Violent crime is surging in Louisiana. Woke leaders blame the police. I blame the criminals. A mom should not have to look over her shoulder when she's pumping gas. I voted against the early release of violent criminals, and I opposed defunding the police. Look, if you hate cops just because they're cops, the next time you get in trouble, call a crackhead. I'm John Kennedy, and I approve this message.
There you go. Call a crackhead. As a former politician, literally my all-time favorite political campaign ever, political ad ever is this one right here. And I love John Kennedy. I love his one-liners. I was just not expecting him to go on that tangent tonight. It's kind of like a feeling where it's your favorite uncle all of a sudden starts talking about some an uncomfortable topic. I feel like, Senator John Kennedy just recently found out what that is, the whole texting thing, that I don't want to repeat, which, the rest of us, especially us younger generations, have pretty much known about for a very long time, especially if you're a millennial, right? It goes back to when we were teenagers, right? So the fact that he's now, as if he's suddenly discovered this and he has to expose this, and the rest of us are oh gosh, no, why did our favorite uncle have to be exposed to this, right? But good for him for calling it out. Because it's not normal behavior, and no normal rational person does that, right? It's not a normal thing to do. So anyways, let's go to some breaking news and footage from Shin, because Shin is my favorite and most reliable OSINT account. Oh wait, Sean Hannity's back, never mind.
Central Command says they have now completed a brand new series of strikes that have been ongoing for hours against Iran, ordered by President Trump. Now, CENTCOM says the strikes targeted Iranian communications and air defenses across the country and were launched in response to an ongoing Iranian aggression against U.S. forces and international shipping. Here with reaction, here with analysis, former special envoy to Ukraine and Russia, retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg. Well, we kind of knew this day was coming. I think I said to you the last time you were on that I know the president well, his patience will run thin, and here we are. Now the question is, will they quickly take the Qataris' reported advice, sign the deal that's been offered, or are they going to get obliterated?
Yeah, Sean, thanks for having me. Look, I think the president's had the patience of Job. He's really done a wonderful job in keeping the patience and extending the negotiations. I think we've reached a point where we're just going to say we're done with these guys. And politically, we say stop the negotiations. Have our team come home, say, you know, our phone number, give us a call. Economically, and I've said this repeatedly, you take things like the Rock Island, which is the command and control facility in the Strait. You take the island of Karg Island, which is their economic lifeline. So you've got the economic piece. You tell the rest of the world, you're not going to get any oil because we now control the oil. We're not the oil barons. We've talked about it politically. We've talked about it economically, political, the negotiations economically. Is Karg Island and militarily. I mean, the Secretary of War and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs have got this one really well, really down very well. And every time they stick their head up, just keep pounding them. I would reach a point right now, Sean, of saying, we're just done with you guys. We're going to go in, we're going to finish the job. Having a protracted war is not the American way of war. It's a war we've been conditioned to in the last few decades where we've done things in Afghanistan or Iraq. We ought to go back to the way we did it in like World War II or World War I, and we just finish the job, total war, obliterate them, and say, when you need to come to the table and you want to talk to us, you got our phone number, but until then we're done. Because right now we're playing their game, not our game. Let's play our game and force them to come to us.
Yeah, I tend to think you're right, and I think it's going to end very quickly. I do believe that people don't understand the Trump doctrine. He does not believe in forever wars. He's been patient. I don't fault him for being patient or trying for peace for the people in Iran, 90 million people. I don't fault him for that. But the moment of truth has come. At some point, you have to assume they're playing you, right?
Right, and I think they are. They're playing their game plan right now. You can't trust them. They're going to delay, because they think the American people are going to run out of patience. The American people do not like a protracted war. We don't like a protracted war. Finish it now. The president has done great things. He knows what he's doing. And the fact is, he's now given them plenty of options to come to the table. They haven't done it. Finish them off.
Yeah, well said. All right, General Kellogg, always thank you for your time. We appreciate your analysis here with Reaction. Off his big 58% win last night, like 17 people in his primary.
It's Al
Lindsey
Lindsey.
Graham. I'm going to tell you behind the scenes. The president
Yes,
said,
Senator
you
Graham.
watch South Carolina, you know Lindsey's got to win. He's like one of my loyalist supporters in the Senate. I said, yes, sir. I'm aware, sir. He goes, he's got to win this the first night. I said, yes, sir. I'm aware of that. So he was behind you in a hearty way. Good for the president. I know he did a big town hall. Tim Scott was on advocating for you. Did a great job as always. You guys are a great team together. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for all the help you provided.
Let's start with, we knew it was going to come down to this, and at some point they would sign a deal. They've been given every opportunity. They passed, they punted, they delayed. Then they attacked an Apache helicopter. If those pilots were killed, we'd be this would be a very different show tonight, in my view. And why the Iranians, dismiss 3 tiers of leadership wiped out at this point, not knowing that they're probably next, is beyond my comprehension.
Well, they're homicidal maniacs. They're religious Nazis and have an agenda, and they don't mind dying. They just want to take you with them. It's hard to negotiate with a kamikaze. So I think these people are very radical. Not everybody in Iran is very radical. So if this is a negotiating tactic to bomb them tonight, I hope it works. Hope we can get them to the table. But the deal that we enter into with Iran will define President Trump's entire presidency. I know it will be a good deal or he won't sign it. What would a good deal look like? No enrichment now or forever. That's the opposite of the JCPOA. Get the nuclear dust, make sure it's never taken out of Iran and it's destroyed, and a few other things. If they continue to be supporters of terrorism, we'll crush them. So I hope we can get a deal. This negotiating tactic, this attack, if it's a negotiating tactic, I hope it works. But there'll come a point where you have to do what General Kellogg said, enough already, and finish them off. And I don't know how far away we are, but that option needs to be clear to Iran. If you don't sign this deal, we're going to finish you off. And if they don't believe that, it will never stop.
We look at their economy, and the description of it is horrific. Half the population is out of work. Inflation running 300+%. Their currency is worth nothing. They have an oil-based economy that they can't tap into. But are they looking at our calendar thinking, oh, well, we can cause political chaos for President Trump because gas prices are higher? President revealed today he got 100 million barrels of oil out from under their nose that they don't even know about.
Now, this is important. If we can break the straits, if we can break it open and actually force it open, they've lost all their leverage in Iran. If we can keep the economic pressure on, and Bessett's been great on this, we'll break them even further. We should unleash Israel, and we should use military force ourselves if they don't sign a deal right now. So here's what I'm trying to tell you. If you told Hitler the people are suffering, he would not care. These people in charge are more tied to their ideology and their agenda than they are the suffering of the Iranian people. These are pretty hard people to deal with. It's not that you can't get a deal, but clearly what we're doing hasn't led to a deal yet. I hope tonight will be a change in behavior. But if this doesn't work, Mr. President, and thank you for getting me over the line, without your endorsement, I would not have won last night, and I'll be forever grateful. So as a friend, if this doesn't get them to the table, you need to change your strategy, go all in, knock them out, let the Iranian people take their country back over time, and move to peace between Saudi and Israel once you deal with Iran. Once Iran is in a box, Sean, then we have a chance to get Saudi Arabia to recognize Israel. Saudi joined the Abraham Accords, would be the biggest change in thousands of years in the Mideast and the world. And the key to that is containing and weakening Iran. They're weak, but they're not weak enough yet to sign a deal.
And I'll say one thing to people that don't understand. The very people that say hitting their infrastructure, those are legitimate military targets, A. B,
totally.
Where's your criticism? Where is your criticism of Iran targeting densely populated areas in Israel like Tel Aviv, or targeting the infrastructure of all these Arab countries and their entire economies and their refineries and capability of building out their economy? Senator, congratulations. Appreciate you being with us and your insight. Up next, she's back. Jasmine Crockett, other notable Democrats now defending convicted murderer Carmelo Anthony.
All right. So that's pretty much it for Sean Hannity. So I want to go to, oh my gosh, what is...
As we continue.
Whoa, oh my gosh. Okay, that's some crazy stuff happening there. But I do want to get to the rest of the news. I just want to share some breaking news with you, and then we're going to call it a night. I have some videos and some footage coming out from occupied Iran. Guys, if you don't follow Shin is oh, that was Belfast. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was Belfast. Sorry. Yeah, they spoke about Belfast earlier. Oh, Jesse Waters spoke about that. Okay, you know what? We might actually go back to Belfast. We might go back to Sean Hannity when he speaks about Belfast, because that's all related to the Islamic regime and the jihad that they're exporting around the world. And I spoke about that a couple hours earlier. But okay, so let's just go to the latest news. So there's air activity over Bushehr and Bushehr province, just like we heard on Fox News. Earlier, air raid sirens sounding across Bahrain. Residents urged to take shelter. Here's the thing. Now, the Islamic regime is claiming that they've targeted the U.S. Fifth Fleet in Bahrain by drones. So according to the Islamic regime, the terrorist Islamic regime, remember, if their lips are moving, they're lying. Apparently, they've targeted the United States Fifth Fleet in Bahrain using drones. Apparently, there were reports of explosions near Abiyek in Qazvin province. We already shared this clip by Trey Yingst,
Special,
I believe.
Yeah, Laura, good evening. I just spoke with President Trump, who was...
So this was a clip of Trey Yingst from earlier. We didn't watch this, but he pretty much gave the exact same update on Jesse Waters that we saw. And then about an hour ago, so CENTCOM posted claim Iranian media, they mean the Islamic regime state media, you know, the Durka News Network, are claiming that Iran, the Islamic regime, has attacked a U.S. warship in the Strait of Hormuz. False. Truth. No U.S. warships have been struck. I don't know about you guys, but I actually, like, if I have to pick, you know, between who I believe, you know, a bunch of like 7th century inbred, you know, Muslim Nazi savages who go, Allahu Akbar, you know, while they're chopping people's heads off, or if I'm going to believe the United States, I know who I'm going to believe. And I say that as an Iranian. I'm going to believe the United States, right? So remember, when it comes to the Islamic regime, if their lips are moving, they're lying. And the only weapon that they have left is their disinformation, propaganda, warfare, where not only do they put out info, but then they have all their like Pakistani and Bangladeshi bot farms and, you know, like, I don't know, bot farms in other third world countries basically promote their posts and, you know, basically manipulate the algorithm to bring their posts up and get it going and trending on social media. So yeah, the only reason that the Islamic regime narrative is actually sometimes more predominant in social media is because they literally hire people in Pakistan and Bangladesh whose full-time job is to sit there with like a screen or something, and they have like, I don't know, 100 phones in front of them, and then they're literally just like, you know, doing whatever it is they need to do in front of their phone screens, right? So these like Pakistani and Bangladeshi bot farms are real, and I don't know, they probably get paid like, I don't know, 50 cents or $1 a day or something. Actually, I think $1 a day is actually too much, but you know, anyway, so there you go. That's why you see all these like bots and troll farms from, you know, Pakistan and Bangladesh supporting the Islamic regime. Anyways. All right, let's go to, oh wait, Sean Hannity's back. All right.
You probably have not heard in quite a while, a former favorite Congresswoman, Jasmine Crockett. She's back, and she has some thoughts on the Carmelo Anthony trial.
Didn't she resign or
it happened just to the north of where she lives. Apparently, Jasmine thinks there's nothing wrong with one teeny tiny stabbing. Take a look.
Carmelo ended up stabbing, puncturing. I don't know what this tool was that they talk about, knife, or some refer to it as a tool. He ended up hitting Austin one time, and it was about where he hit him. One time, 2 inches. This wasn't someone who said, hey, let me stab you 5, 6, 7 times. And so when you're looking at the punishment range, there's a reason in Texas that it goes from 5 to 99 or life, because you are looking at how intentional, like how bad was this? 35 years for a kid?
He stabbed him once, true. He's dead. And she also says that if she were in the same situation, she would have also stabbed Austin Metcalf, the victim in this case. Take a look.
Psycho.
Black women, especially Black women who have Black male children, live in fear and agony every single day. A fear and agony that I promise you, the Metcalfs probably never spend a day living that way.
Your kid is
as a
dead,
5'3" woman, if a 300-pound man is beating me, like on top of me and beating me down, I'm not limited to fist. Because I'm telling you right now, if you are twice my weight.
Okay, I listen, I want to make a clarification here. these psychos do not speak for the Black community, right? They don't speak for the Black Americans. I'm telling you that right now. The vast majority of Black Americans are normal people. That's why the vast majority vote for Republican. Guys, this is like the equivalent of me showing you Iranians who support the Islamic regime, right? Like the psychos, like the woke left, the progressive left, the whatever, right? So do not see this as like this is how the Black community is. Absolutely not at all. These are the fringes within the community. And Canny here, listen, I know, believe me, I know. So I want to make that distinction very clear. This is the same as me exposing the Iranian psychos who are the Islamists and the Durkas and the whatever, right? So what's unfortunate is that this Jasmine Crockett person is trying to use the Black identity and try to make it seem as if all Black Americans feel this way when it's literally not the case, right? So she's using this like victimhood card, and she's basically like trying to pull in the rest of the community, and that's not it at all, right? And it's very unfortunate. But this is how the left uses identity politics to divide and conquer, and shame on the left.
Relief that 12 members of our community, the jurors, saw it the same way we did, that this was murder, plain and simple.
On a human level, I was mostly relieved for the family.
What happens next for him?
I hope one day when he's serving his sentence, the light goes on and he'll realize he did the wrong thing. And
oh, wow, she went to private school.
Law-abiding life, either behind bars or not, moving forward.
The case, it quickly became a national story, with critics claiming race played a role and protesters clashing outside the courthouse.
And there was absolutely no space in that courtroom for anyone to come in and play the race card. This case was never about race.
Guys, this was never about race.
Back out here live.
Listen, I'm not going to tolerate any sort of racism in my live stream chat. If you're going to generalize all Black people, just leave. Otherwise, I'm going to ban you right now. I'm not going to tolerate the racism. This is not about racism. This is about the woke left using identity politics to divide and conquer. So just stop it right now, because this is what the Islamic regime has been doing with the Iranians. So do not ever come in here and generalize an entire race of people based on what the woke
You're
left.
A lawyer on top of everything else. None of what Jasmine Crockett said is true. The facts pointed in a very different direction. The jury came back in less than 3 hours. It seems obvious what happened here. Why is some people turning it into a racial issue?
That's an excellent question, because neither the defense nor the prosecution said that race had anything whatever to do with this case. Let me tell you how absurd what Jasmine Crockett said. Notice that you haven't heard one word from Barack. If I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon Obama. Not one word from Al, no justice, no peace, Sharpton. Nothing about this case. Why? Because the facts and the law clearly point to guilt, and both these gentlemen know it. And they want to get on the wrong side of people like Jasmine Crockett, so they haven't said one single word. And about the jury not having any Blacks, it is not uncommon, for example, for somebody like Ollie North, whom I know you know. He was found guilty for lying to Congress, among other things, by an all-Black Washington, D.C. jury. And when he appealed, he never even argued that he got an unfair trial because there were no whites on the jury. So the idea that somehow, some way, this is an unfair trial because there are no Blacks in the jury is just completely unfair. And also, you're insulting the judge, because the defense raised questions when prospective jurors were dismissed. You have to give a reason. The judge was satisfied with the reason, and the jury was impaneled, and they reached a decision based on the law and based on the facts. Also, last thing, Jasmine Crockett said every Black woman lives in fear. I presume she's claiming in fear of white people like Mr. Metcalf. Are you serious? What Black women and who have young children live in fear of are other young Black men who prey on them. A small minority are criminals. According to the Center for Disease Control, the #1 cause of preventable death for a young white man, depending upon the year and the age demo, is accidents like car accidents or drownings or drug overdoses. The number one cause of preventable death for young black men is homicide, almost always at the hands of another young black man. What's unusual about this trial is that it was interracial. Most homicide is same race homicide. Most whites who are killed by other whites. Most blacks who are killed by other blacks. That's what makes this case so unusual.
All right, Larry Elder, thanks for that great analysis. Always good to see you. This is Larry Elder 1.0. All right, coming up, anti-immigration protests erupting in Belfast. Wait till you see this video. It's viral, a violent attack carried out by a knife-wielding migrant, plus one liberal lawmaker now saying black people will stop voting if reparations are not ushered in. Erin McGuire reacts to all of it straight ahead.
Wow.
What will you do when the power...
Okay, so let's go to some more breaking footage, and then we'll continue with Sean Hannity. So going back to Shin. Okay, wait, actually, let me go to my Iran Revolution news. Wait, where was I? Okay. So, yeah, it's this one here. So there's now, okay, so guys, this is all unconfirmed. This is all unconfirmed because it's breaking. So this hasn't been confirmed by the mainstream media yet, like the mainstream Iranian media accounts that I follow. But apparently these are the locations of all the attacks so far in like the southern part. So Sirik, Kargan, Mina, Bandar Abbas, Peshk, Hingam Island, and Asaliye. And then this is like, I don't know if this is new or not. This reminds me of footage that we saw back in late February, early March, but I mean, this could be new footage. Anyway, so this account is claiming that this is, the shockwave from strikes in Karaj. Karaj is just west of Tehran. Tehran's the capital city of Iran. So to the Iranians who are in the chat, can you confirm if this is new or not? I mean, it could be new, but I don't know. Anyways, more apparently boom boom's happening. And then, yeah, we've seen this. Let me go to some more footage. What's this? Reports indicate that landing clearance has been granted to aircraft awaiting landing at Kuwait International Airport, according to published information. Following disruptions and restrictions in regional air traffic, stray flights have received permission to land at Kuwait International Airport. No further details have been released regarding the number of aircraft or the exact cause of this situation. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, guys, here is some boom booms for you. So this is literally Karaj, when a tomahawk flies over your head. So, guys, this is like breaking footage of the boom booms and explosions happening in occupied Iran. So let's watch this together. Guys, again, all of this is completely unconfirmed, unverified. Wait, was that? Oh, that was it, guys. Look at that. That's it. Look at that. He literally caught it. So he's filming and then the tomahawk literally flies over his head. Whoa. Look at that. But do you see how, like, even though these like boom booms are happening, like Iranians aren't like running away scared. They're literally going to the windows and they're filming, right? They're filming the scenes because Iranians, I mean, listen, is it terrifying? Absolutely. Of course it's terrifying. Like you can't not be terrified because it's literally like, missiles or bombs or whatever flying over your head. It's natural human instinct to be terrified. However, Iranians know and understand that the United States and Israel are not targeting Iranian civilians. They're targeting the Islamic regime. Oh, wait, let's go back to Sean Hannity.
The news of the day, violent unrest has erupted across Northern Ireland after a shocking knife attack carried out by a Sudanese asylum seeker left a local Belfast man fighting for his life. Authorities now say the suspect has been charged with attempted murder after a brutal assault that horrified witnesses, sparked outrage throughout the entire UK as videos of the attack spread all across social media. We'll show it to you here. Fed up crowds flooding the streets, protesting, immigration, setting homes, cars on fire, clashing with police. Here with reaction, Republican strategist Erin McGuire. This is very chilling to me. Why did they act that way? And we'll show the video bracket slowly.
Yeah, this is absolutely horrifying what we've witnessed. And what we've seen here is an absolute failure of the United Kingdom's government to protect their own people. This individual went from Paris into Dublin and then from Dublin up into Northern Ireland, where he claimed asylum. And what are you going to hear from Keir Starmer? You're likely to hear from Keir Starmer more about the people who are rioting, and don't get me wrong, there should be no riots or violence whatsoever, than he is about the immigrant who attacked this man, who almost beheaded a man in the middle of the street. And instead of doing what needs to be done, hello, America, wake up right now. If there's ever a warning sign, a warning bell screaming about the need for immigration reform, to enforce boundaries, borders, and to make asylum reforms, this is it right now. Because what you're watching in the United Kingdom, if Joe Biden had won re-election, you better believe we probably would have seen something kind of similar here in the United States. It's time to enforce borders. We do it here in the United States. Everyone else should do it everywhere as well.
And then how the police reacted to this, it makes you think, who are you looking out for here? Unbelievable. All right, Democratic Congresswoman Summer Lee now arguing Black Americans should simply stop showing up at the ballot box if Democrats fail to pursue reparations. Take a look at this.
That's what they do, because again, they're trying to disenfranchise you. Because if you believe that you're never going to get reparations from the system, then you tap out. And you don't just tap out of the conversation, you tap out of the system. You don't want to vote anymore. You don't participate anymore. And they know that that's how they don't just control Congress. That's how they can get your school boards.
Someone needs to tell this crazy woman that it was actually the Republicans that abolished slavery, and she literally joined the party of Democrats. The Democrats were fighting to maintain slavery in the United States.
Okay, I mean, you've got a radicalized party. That's a radicalized position. Do you think she means it, and will she get a lot of support?
Well, Summer Lee is peddling in the soft bigotry of low expectations here and saying that Black people vote as a monolith, which is a racist statement to make, and then tries to allege that Black people will only show up to vote if they are paid to do so. Illegal and also highly racist of her. Do I think she will get more voters for this? I certainly hope not. I was just in Pittsburgh last week with the Republicans there, and they are fired up going into November. They do not want more of Summer Lee here. And when she says that Black voters are going to tap out, no, they're not going to tap out and stop voting. They're opening their eyes, and they are not going to be voting for Democrats like Summer Lee, who believe that the only way you get ahead in this country is by the government giving it to you and not by your own free will, volition, and opportunity.
Yeah, well said. All right, Erin McGuire, thank you for being with us. When we come back, a new episode of my podcast drops tomorrow. We're going to tell you who it is, sneak peek, when we return.
All right. Okay. So that was a very interesting episode of Sean Hannity. Wow. Like that, a little bit of everything. It was like Sean Hannity after dark, and it was about Iran and the Islamic regime and Senator Lindsey Graham and John Fetterman and, some after dark stuff. And we learned about this new app that apparently sexual predators use, and then the whole stuff in Ireland. And now, again, guys, it's always the woke left that goes with identity politics. And I'm so sick of it. I remember when I was a politician, all these woke lefty people would be like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing to see a woman of color running for office, right? Oh my gosh, so amazing to see a woman of color running for office. Are you with the Liberal or NDP? And I would be like, actually, I'm conservative. And by the way, my skin color is irrelevant to the fact that I'm running and what I stand for. it's always like the woke left for some reason that brings in identity politics, and they have this like divide and conquer thing. And I actually found it incredibly racist that these like, progressive women were like, oh, a woman of color is running for office. I'm going to vote for you because you're a woman of color. And I was like, no, don't vote for me because of what I look like. Vote for me because of what I bring to the table and my qualifications, right? Like it's like the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest thing. Like they don't realize how racist they actually are when they're bringing in identity politics into it. And then like, they're literally like reducing me to my skin tone and the fact that I was born in Iran. And, I have like a name, that they have difficulty pronouncing, right? Ghamari. So it's dehumanizing. It is Texas. You're absolutely right. It was dehumanizing. It was completely dehumanizing. But you know what? I never actually experienced that on the left. Sorry. I never experienced that on the right. It was only like within like the woke, lefty, progressive, whatever, right? Whereas whenever I was door knocking, and it was like a conservative who answered the door, right? Like, right leaning, they never asked me about, my appearance or anything like that, or like my gender or whatever. They cared more about the facts and like my platform and what I bring to the table. The only time I ever experienced racism was with like the woke left progressives, right? And then, you know what? This is the crazy part. Once they found out that I'm not like a woke left or whatever, all of a sudden they were like, you need to educate yourself because the conservatives are racist, and you as an immigrant, visible minority, woman of color, you should be like a woke left or whatever. Like you should be a liberal or NDP. And I'm like, actually, the fact that you are judging me and assuming what my political platform should be based on my skin color, that in and of itself is racist, right? Because you cannot judge a person's political platform based on what they look like. So yeah, the only time I ever experienced racism was from like the left, the woke left, right? And then as soon as they found out that I don't fit into their, bubble of what, an immigrant woman should be, right? Then I became ostracized, and they actually hated me. That's why they were targeting me for so long, because my very existence threatened them. The very fact that, I was, according to them, like I ticked off every single box. I mean, I guess the only box I didn't tick off was, I don't know, being a lesbian or something. Whatever, right? Like I still, I'm straight. So I wasn't, I guess, I didn't fit every single box. And nothing against lesbians, but you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Like when it comes to the woke left, it's like the more boxes you tick off, right? The more, the more of a better candidate, suitable candidate you are, right? Because they basically want someone who like ticks off every single box, as opposed to someone who, I don't know, like just has ideas for wanting to improve their country. But yeah, anyways, the craziest racism I ever experienced was from the woke left. But having said that, let's go back to some more breaking footage from occupied Iran. And then I will have to call it a night because it is getting late. We've gone on a bit longer, but this has been a very interesting and explosive show. So, okay, so we showed this where it's literally someone who is like, you see the tomahawk flying overhead, going boom, boom somewhere in Karaj. We don't know where, but I'm sure we are going to find out. And then, so this is like more, so this is more footage. Apparently there's like footage of smoke rising in Tehran. We don't know what the smoke is coming from. There you go. It's like somewhere on the outskirts of town, right? Outskirts of town. We're seeing a lot of like smoke. And then, oh yeah, so we already saw the tomahawk video. What's this? Oh, CENTCOM released this. What's this? Okay, so I'm sure we could find this on CENTCOM's X account, but we're already here, so we might as well watch it here. So CENTCOM released a video of the firing of Tomahawk missiles by the destroyer USS Michael Murphy. According to the description accompanying this video, the U.S. destroyer DDG-112 fired Tomahawk cruise missiles on June 10, 2026 in support of U.S. defensive strikes against the terrorist regime of the Islamic regime. These images were released simultaneously with the announcement of the start of a new wave of U.S. attacks on military targets. Yes, guys, let's go. This is what I want to see. There we go. Wow. I hope we see more of that. So here's some. Now Iranians are sharing footage of, smoke and plumes. We're going to get to some of that as well. So as we heard earlier and confirmed, Bahrain. So guys, the Islamic regime is still sending missiles to Bahrain, right? I went through the CENTCOM claims. Okay, here's more footage from Karaj. So an IRGC base in Hisarak, Karaj, was reportedly targeted in a missile strike. Okay, so here is some, guys, I am bringing you boom booms hot off the press. Thank you for your patience, because here we are.
Oh.
Whoa, did you see that? Like, that was back in the mountains. So you know what's interesting is that, like, as soon as Iranians in occupied Iran heard about the United States resuming attacks, it's like everyone just got out their phones. Everyone got out their phones and they're literally just like filming, trying to like catch the boom boom footage. So guys, the Iranians are the real OG. Look at this. Like, he's not even like freaking out. He's literally just like, wow. Let's watch this again. And as you can tell, the boom booms are happening on the outskirts of town, right? Because that's where the IRGC bases are. So watch this. We'll see it again. Look at this boom boom. Internet is still up for now.
Oh.
There we go. So there you go. Internet is still up for now, but it could be like shut down at any point in time. We don't know. So we have to like take advantage. There you go. Whoa, look at that. Wow. This is like the slow motion. Wow. And then even the guy, he's just like, whoa. Front row seats to the boom booms.
Oh.
Do you also notice, guys, whenever it's like regular, normal Iranians filming, right? There's a very different reaction than how the Durkas film, right? Because we've shown you a lot of Durka videos where literally like something happens and they're all just like, right? That's what like the Durkas, the Islamic terrorists do. But when it comes to like regular, normal, everyday Iranians, I mean, obviously they react, right? So this guy is like, wow, right? He's like, whoa. But there's no like, Allahu Akbar, or like, whatever jihadi nonsense, right? So pay attention to the difference. That's how you can tell the difference between like when a regular, normal Iranian is filming a video versus like the the Durka jihadis who are like, the Allahu Akbar, whatever.
Oh.
He's just like, wow. So there you go. Right? That's how you can tell this person's like a normal Iranian, right? He's not like a Durka. Where were we? All right, let's continue. Wait. Were we here? Was it Shin? No, I wasn't at Shin. Where was I? Oh, here we go. Okay. So, look at this. So this is from, look, a fighter jet in the skies of Tehran. Okay, so he's saying so he's saying, the altitude is very low, right? He's saying the altitude is very low. And Mehr News is Islamic regime TV. So yeah, like the Islamic regime is broadcasting this, right? And then the Iranians like, oh, like he's in shock. He's like, the altitude is so low. And that's because the Islamic regime pretty much has no air defense left, right? Like, guys, like the it's almost as if like the fighter jet is just like, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat saying Angel of Liberty. Yeah, you know what? Actually, we're probably going to end tonight's live stream with Angels of Liberty, because I feel like it's probably the right time and place now to share that song once again. However, what I want to point out is, look at this. Like, when President Trump says that the Islamic regime's military has pretty much been decimated, he's not exaggerating. The fighter jet is pretty much just cruising at like low altitude and all of its lights are on. It's almost as if it's trying to tempt the Islamic regime. It's like they're trying to bait the IRGC by saying like, hey, I'm here. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to attack me? Right? It's like the altitude is so low. Again, as you can tell, this is a normal Iranian, because you don't hear that, like jihadi, Allahu Akbar, burqa, whatever. Anyways, let's continue. Okay, so we've seen this video. Okay, here's another one. So Tehrani Moghadam missile base reportedly targeted. This is from 57 minutes ago. Guys, again, this is all unverified. Okay, so I'm literally just bringing you like breaking news. Whether or not this has been verified, we have to wait and see. But these are some of the images that are circulating. These are some of the accounts that I do trust. However, accounts can sometimes get it wrong as well, right? So we are in the fog of war. But, oh, look, Armin posted another Arma's video. Look at this. Let's share Armin's video. Wait, let me repost that. Look at that. Okay. Armin is working hard to arm the people. Look at this. Armas. You know what? Actually, now that I think about it, going back to this, the low altitude thing, where was it? That could be an IRGC plane too. Where's the video now? I can't find it. Anyway, so the video where the guy's like, whoa, like the altitude is low. I mean, this could be an IRGC plane as well, right? So we don't know. It could be an Islamic regime plane. We have no idea. It's the fog of war. So we have no idea which country this is. But what we do know is that there is a fighter jet in the skies going at very low altitude. Who it is, I have no idea. So we'll have to wait and see for confirmation. We'll probably have more info in the coming days. But I'm just sharing the footage with you guys. Okay, next one. So more footage of explosions in different parts of the country. So it's just photos at this point. And the reason that there are photos and not a lot of videos is because Iranians weren't expecting the boom booms, right? So when you're not expecting the boom booms, your camera isn't ready. So basically, pretty much what happens is like they hear the boom boom sound and then they go to the window or wherever they are and they take a photo because that's pretty much all they can do. And here's another one, another footage of like boom booms in Karaj. Here's another one. Wow, look at this. Oh, this is Kharg. This is Kharg Island. So apparently this image is from boom boom explosion in Kharg Island. So there you go. Then you have more boom booms in Karaj, which is just the western part of Tehran. We already saw that video. Okay, here's another one. Wow. So here's more more footage of impacts right here. Wait, let me change the dimensions so you can actually see the image here. So as you can see, they weren't able to capture the actual footage of the explosion. That's because Iranians weren't expecting the boom booms. So that's why most of the footage you're seeing is like the aftermath, right? There you go. So there's another one. And here's like just an image. Oh, wow. Here's another one. So guys, they definitely targeted something in like the outskirts, like in the mountain area or something. Okay, so that one we've already seen. Whoa. So there's more Kadaj, right? So this is all like the outskirts. Like they're literally targeting the IRGC bases here. Oh, this guy I trust. What's he saying? A video showing the deployment of dozens of U.S. Air Force refueling aircraft at Ben Gurion Airport located in Tel Aviv, Israel. This video was recorded today. Wow, okay. What's this one? What's this? Okay, so heavy explosions heard in Kadaj. Let me just share this one. Can you hear that? Okay, wait. And then there's all these photos. Wow. There you go. Yep. And the explosion, the boom booms have been confirmed. So an hour ago, the Islamic regime Durka News Network confirmed that explosions were heard in the city of Kadaj. Okay, I've shared both of those videos. Apparently a missile site has been targeted. Let's see what else do I have for you here. There's 2CTV. Yep. And yeah, 2C's doing a great job. Guys, if you haven't watched 2C's live stream from earlier today, you definitely need to go and watch that, okay? Because I think he streamed about 3 or 4 hours ago. Basically like about an hour before I started my live stream. Go and make sure that you watch that because he gives all of the breaking news before everyone else. Okay. Oh, that's so cute. It's his birthday. All right. Let me just send 2C a happy birthday message. Aw. All right. There we go. It's his birthday where he is right now because he's like, he's like 6 hours ahead of me. So, all right. Here's footage of boom booms from Qishm Island. There we go. I'm sure we're going to get a lot more. Okay, I just shared this one. I'm sure we're going to get a lot more footage coming out in the next 24 hours. Guys, okay, so apparently 3 hours ago, Pakistan said it will no longer pursue mediation efforts. Pakistan, we have informed the United States that we will no longer continue. Oh no, please, Pakistan, please continue. Please continue mediating because, we all trust, Pakistan to, mediate. Yeah. I think, guys, Pakistan finally realized that the United States was basically just using them as a tool. That's actually going to be good for my analysis tomorrow as well on Iran Revolution Live, because I was saying for the longest time, the reason that the United States is using Pakistan as a mediator is not because Pakistan is relevant. They're using Pakistan as a mediator because Pakistan is irrelevant and the United States doesn't actually care what Pakistan thinks, right? It's the same reason that they were using Oman, right? They were using Oman back in February, and then the Omani prince or whatever was like, yeah, on February 27, he was like, we're gonna continue the negotiations on Monday, right? Like, we're encouraging everyone to negotiate, right? That they said that on Friday, February 27, and then President Trump was like, yeah, we're gonna continue the talks, and then literally 12 hours later, Khamenei was dead. That's literally why they're using Pakistan, because no one cares about Pakistan, right? Like, President Trump's not going to use like a reputable country for guys, if President Trump was serious about negotiations, he would not use Pakistan. He would use, I don't know, a reputable country. Like, I don't know, what's a reputable country? I mean, a lot of countries are weird these days, but Japan, for example. Japan, right? Like, if President Trump was serious about negotiations, he would use a reputable country. He wouldn't use Pakistan. It's the same reason they used Oman, because the United States can use Pakistan and Oman as a scapegoat, and when push comes to shove, those countries can't actually do anything about it. That's why Pakistan is now saying it's no longer going to pursue mediation efforts. Oh, no, Pakistan, please come back. I'm so heartbroken. Oh, no, right? Like, no, please, we want you to mediate. We want you to, come to a deal. Remember, guys, when Pakistan did this whole, they thought they were going to have like a 2-week negotiation thing in Islamabad, and they thought that the American delegation would be there for 2 weeks, and they literally printed out posters saying like, Islamabad peace talks. Like, they literally had these like insane posters created where it was a flag of the Islamic regime, and then the flag of Pakistan, and then the flag of the United States, right? And then J.D. Vance shows up with Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff. They were supposed to be there for 2 weeks, according to Pakistan. 21 hours later, they were gone. They were like, nope, negotiations are over. We're done. And then literally the rest of it was pretty much just footage of like Pakistani government taking down like all the posters that they probably spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on to like print out, right? Because it was all about the Islamabad peace talks, right? Islamabad, yeah. Islamabad peace talks. Yeah, okay. Anyways, let's continue. A few more footage. Wait, what's it saying? زیرنویس شبکه تروریست خبر تنگی هرمز به صورت کامل مسدود شد. What? Okay, so guys, the Islamic regime on their Durka News Network tonight is reporting that the Strait of Hormuz has been completely blocked by the Islamic regime. Yeah, okay, right? The copium is hitting hard with these people. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Oh my gosh, guys, look, all the BB memes are coming out now with like Israel making kotlet, right? So you're gonna see a lot of those memes as well. Okay, that's. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, that's wow. Belfast. Whoa. Okay. I know this has nothing to do with Iran, but I want to watch this anyway. I mean, I don't condone violence, but how else are people supposed to, I don't know, let their governments know what's going on? Or the governments are mass importing terrorists to your country with that literally yell Allahu Akbar while they chop your head off, right? I mean, I don't know. It's a tough situation. Okay. All right, so that's pretty much all of the sort of breaking boom footage that I have. This is Sirik. Okay, so this is explosion from another area. This is Sirik, okay? So there's going to be more footage coming out. I'm going to compile a whole bunch. I'll have them ready for you for tomorrow. We are still in sort of the fog of war, but you guys have pretty much seen the breaking news in terms of the most recent boom booms. So, I mean, the only thing that I can say is that, you know, just like my final few thoughts. I mean, the only thing that I can say is that I really hope that President Trump and his administration take this to the finish line, because I've said this before and I'll say it again. The Islamic regime is like a cancer. In fact, the Islamic regime is cancer. And Iran currently has stage 4 cancer. And that cancer is called the Islamic regime. And the only way that you can cure cancer is by not just cutting out the tumor, but by eradicating every single cancer cell. Because if you leave even one cancer cell around, that cancer will multiply. And it will become even more dangerous and even more violent and even more vicious. And so the only way to deal with the Islamic regime, if you want to ensure that they will never be a threat, is not to weaken them. It's to destroy them. Eradicate them off the face of the earth. And let the Iranian people finally have a free, democratic, and secular country like we did 47 years ago, before Jimmy Carter and the Democrats helped the Islamic regime come to power. Because just like all of us who live outside of occupied Iran, the Iranian people deserve democracy, they deserve freedom, and they deserve to live in a country that has the same values and commitment to human rights that you and I take for granted in Western countries. Thank you, everyone, for joining me tonight for tonight's episode of The Goldie Show. I'm Goldie Ghamari, and now you know.
Shadows cut from the light, sirens and gunfire in the dead of night. They took our voices, they shut the net. The not our will, not our regret. Now hear us say, without any apology, America, send your angels of liberty. Angels of liberty, unleash your fire, and the Islamic regime lift us higher. Angels of liberty, hear our cry. Freedom is born when you fill our sky. Angels of liberty, strong and true, our own ally, USA. We stand with you. Boss and cheat are on every street. IRGC boots marching to beat. 40,000 killed, buried unnamed. 50,000 caged, broken and chained. But we still rise, we still believe in words you wrote, in vows you gave. We want freedom and revenge. We will fight beside you till the end. Angels of liberty, unleash your fire, and the Islamic regime lift us higher. Angels of liberty, hear our cry. Freedom is born when you fill our sky. Bye.